Buy my novel, Escape from the Village, from major booksellers online. Go to escapevillage.com. Subscribe to my Substack. Go to fountainheadforum.substack.com. Thank you. The Fountainhead Forum is not tax advice, not legal advice, not financial advice, and not immigration advice. Please consult with an expert before making any critical life decisions. Thank you. Welcome to the party, pal. This is Fountainhead Forum 170, and we have the return of Skot Sheller, who is going to talk about Javier Milei. His wife is from the country. His parents. Also, Scott, you're working on possible citizenship too. Is that right or not?
That's right. That's right. Since I'm married to an Argentine citizen, I can waive that 2-year requirement to live there. The only problem is trying to get somebody to process it, which might require me to go to Argentina for a little while to get it in process.
Yeah, I don't know. Do you need a lawyer? Or?
I don't believe so. I think you can go to the you can go to the government and through the same processes. But I've asked about it and I'm inquiring about it. I want to do it, so whatever I have to do it. I know some friends that have also gone for citizenship. It actually takes a long time, and at least it did prior to Milei because of bureaucratic inefficiencies. So yeah. I'm just looking at how to do the process, which it seems like from my research, I can't do it from the US. I might have to go to Argentina, even just for a little vacation to process it.
Yeah, and that's a long trip.
It's worth it though. I love Argentina.
Oh yeah. Can you get a direct flight from Logan to Buenos Aires? Boston, Logan. Yeah.
I think you can. We did not. So yeah. we flew from Boston to JFK and then to Buenos Aires.
Yeah, probably JFK, maybe Miami or Dulles, or you have to go through there. Anything else kind of be out of your way, but yeah.
It's definitely cheaper. I think there are definitely more flights, so it's more convenient in that regard.
Yeah, definitely. It's that's one thing about hiring lawyers. At least they do all that shit for you, but you never know it. But also this is something significant too. It's only a 2-year. I mean, you only have to live there 2 years, which is actually a low number compared to a lot of other countries. You go there, get residency, and I don't know what it's like to get a residency permit, and you live there for 2 years, and then you can. I don't know how easy or hard it is to get residency, but that might be if you don't have easy access. And I really do advocate, if you have easy access to a second citizenship, go get it. I mean, if you've got a parent or sometimes even a grandparent or wife, or it's not and keep in mind too, you can get citizenship there, but if you never live there, you never have to file any income tax there. They don't care. Right. One of the few countries that does care is the wonderful United States of America.
Yep, that's it. United States citizenship it's bad if you live overseas.
Really that's true. And really one of the measures of how free a country is how easy is it to leave. It's actually hard to leave America when you think about it, because you're still right. That was when the prince. The second English prince, married Meghan Markle. I said, oh, he shouldn't have done that. He just married the IRS. It's reason enough not to marry an American citizen. But anyway.
Wow. Yeah. And if you renounce your citizenship, you can't renounce it for tax purposes. Otherwise, you will not be able to enter the United States again. You have to renounce it for other reasons. Obviously, it's always for tax purposes, at least not in my case if I ever renounced it. But for most people, it is for tax purposes, and they have to make up an excuse. They have to make up an excuse for why they are renouncing their citizenship.
Well, also, technically, let's say you and your wife move down there, and you have kids. Those kids are automatically American citizens, so they technically have to file. But if they never enter America, it's probably never going to make a difference. But That's something else too. A lot of citizenship renunciations are just that people who were born outside of America and never lived there. They just go to the embassy and citizenship renunciations of American citizenship were reaching an all-time high. Sometimes I wonder if the whole COVID scam was just to get an excuse to get a lid on that. They don't want people renouncing their citizenships, but they're making it more difficult, and it's not a
The price is continuously increasing. So,
exit tax. Of course, I think it also depends on how much what you have too, doesn't it? I mean that guy, when that Facebook guy Eduardo Sovereign, he probably had to pay a lot more than what you'd have to pay, but I don't.
Yeah, but he saved billions of dollars, so it was worth it.
Oh yeah, yeah, good for him. Yeah. So anyway, that's one Argentine topic we haven't explored yet, and it's certainly something worth looking into. I don't know what the rules are about residency, but also too, they use the same electrical outlets as the Europeans, so go down there prepared. Amazon, there's a lot of ways to do that. That's one thing I made the mistake.
Well, it's like it's the most European country in South America.
It definitely is.
Country. Buenos Aires is definitely the most European city in South America. You get the architecture feel. You get some of the Italian type of cultural feel. Of course, they have their own culture, but it is very similar to Europe. And really, Argentina, if you want to go down there, you need to go down there to experience the culture. It has a lot of beautiful natural resources, but the culture is what makes it so unique and beautiful. How they eat late and the tango they do, their activities, the way they act. Argentines they're really fun people, and they have a beautiful culture, which is worth witnessing.
It's interesting how much Doug Casey loves Argentina. I've been trying to get him on here too. And he said, he's apparently said, I predicted that if any country in Latin America goes libertarian, it might be Argentina. By the way, this lovely little thing here is a plug I think I got it on Amazon. You can do your outlets and
right.
It's in fact, this goes to all. So
yeah,
it's good for anybody to buy, good for anybody to sell. Like, if you have,
we went to Austria and I forgot to get one of those.
It has little plugs there. I think I bought this somewhere, and it's not that big, but make sure it's in your bag when you travel outside the US.
We were able to buy one in Austria, but it was it was a little bit of an inconvenience for a couple of days, and they always gouge at the airports too. So we waited to actually get into Austria to buy one.
And England, and the plugs in England are different from Europe, and
right.
Uruguay, I went down there. They have different plugs, and then Peru, you can go down there with American devices, which is interesting. But they have it set up so they can actually take both two types of devices. They have a plug that goes with both, which is very interesting. So yes, this is like $25, but it's definitely worth having. You get a couple of them. You go to little shops and stuff. You can find them there too. It's they do gouge it. Well, they gouge on a lot of things at the airport, but people know, oh crap, I need this, but that is one place where you'll find it too.
Right. I'm not complaining. I think they have every right to do that. That's what the market demands.
Yes.
And if you're not smart enough to get it beforehand, you're going to have to pay a higher price, or probably have to pay higher rent to rent a store there, etc.
Yes.
So they're going to have higher prices. It's just how the market works. It's not a problem. It's just, I would prefer to not buy from there.
My Airbnb host actually had an adapter too, which was nice. They were fully prepared for that. So I ended up going up getting one anyway. And then you end up with a bunch of them when you get home. But they're definitely it's a lot of things. I definitely want to, next time I go down, I'm going to try to go visit some of the natural beauty, because it looks like it's absolutely amazing.
It's very beautiful, yeah.
And I've got to say, the food was kind of a disappointment. The thing I liked best that I had actually was seafood. I had some good seafood there.
Did you have their asado?
I did not have asado.
That's what they're known for. Do you not eat steak?
I just had some. I'm not a big fan of steak, and I got to say, 2 places I went, the food was burned.
Well, they do like a well done food.
Yeah.
They do like it. But the food I had was amazing. In general, it's amazing. And if you're a meat lover, it's generally amazing.
I'm
And the
I'm much
asada,
more.
you have to get the asada. That's what they're known for.
Well, I figured they had to have a seafood culture there.
Not as much. They
Yeah,
do have some on the coast there. Of course, Buenos Aires is near
yeah.
the coast. It's near that river. But however, that's not what they're known for. They're known for the meat. They're known for the steak
Yeah.
and the meat options.
I didn't see much in the way of poultry either.
Yeah, it's true. You
I
don't see as
love
much.
turkey. I love turkey, so I get
Yeah,
more.
if you go to the countryside, you don't see a lot of those animals being raised there. You see just an enormous amount of cows. They have more cows than humans. I think they have like 55 million cows and 45 million humans. So it is a beef culture there. And
Yes, just like
I had it. You at least got, even if a steak's not your thing, you got to try the asado. It's so amazing. Their
I
ice cream is great too. Their candy is great.
I had ice
Their
cream.
pastries is great. I think their food is fantastic.
I did
And
eat.
sometimes you have to know where to go, right? You might have
Oh
gone to
yeah,
some places that just weren't. Maybe were more oriented towards tourists and not a local place.
yeah.
So
That's
my
one thing.
father-in-law made asado in the cultural Argentine dish. It was fantastic. It was just amazing. But he made it in his outdoor brick oven. It was really cool. Then we ate it.
Empanadas. I had enough empanadas, and
Those are great. You didn't?
sometimes also, if you want, sometimes you can find good foods in these so-called bad neighborhoods too.
Oh, of course.
Which usually makes it cheaper. But yes, yeah, I've noticed that, but I don't know how 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 courageous I'd be to go into some of those neighborhoods. But yeah,
Right.
I will go into them in San Antonio, but not where they're practically Spanish anyway. Oh, that reminds me. It's 31 March, 29 years ago in Texas. Selena was murdered. This is a day of mourning for a lot of people in Texas. I know it's amazing how much she was loved down here, but Tejano singer who sang Spanish and then decided to go English and then got shot before the album was released. It was really sad. I'm actually going down to Corpus Christi for LP, Texas. I'm going to go see the hotel. But anyway, let's get on to Milei. I wanted to bring up Milei's inaugural. I know we're a little late to the party on this, but this was a really good speech. It's this kind of in some ways it's the best of Milei. I think he's got so much good stuff out there though. It's and I am, yeah, like I said, I am late on this, but we'll have to get it now. And fortunately, I don't think, since this is on so many channels, I don't think we'll have risking any copyright issues. So here we go. I'm going to put it in captions and we will listen now. So yeah, here we go.
Ministro de la Corte, señores gobernadores, señores diputados y senadores
Let's go back to the beginning.
señores
Captions are on.
ministros de la Corte, señores gobernadores, señores diputados
Can you pause it for a second?
nacionales.
Yeah.
I think one of the things about this speech is, if you watched it, I think it was a very strategic speech. So Milei could have done a couple things. He could have gone with his speeches like on his campaign, which were very rah-rah, which were very like we're gonna make Argentina great again. Not like that, but we're going to fix Argentina, blah blah. He did talk about making an adjustment but this speech was very strategic. Why? Because he wanted everybody to know just how bad the country was. It wasn't a rah-rah speech. It was, this country is falling apart. This country is in disrepair. It is terrible. It has liabilities and debt that are unprecedented, that we are experiencing practically hyperinflation at the very moment I'm taking office. And he wanted everybody to know how bad this is going to be. And he wanted people to know that his adjustments are going to be painful. So it was a strategic speech. And I thought it was bright. But go ahead.
Yeah, but yeah, that's a good point.
Presidentes y dignatarios extranjeros, argentinos. Hoy comienza una nueva era en Argentina. Hoy damos por terminada una...
Is that Karina wearing the white on the left side?
Yeah, I believe that is her.
Okay, that's his sister.
So you had the president of Spain is there. You had actually he brought Bolsonaro. Yeah, and he put him in a spot where as a head of state instead of Lula, which was really funny.
Yeah,
The president of Paraguay, of course, infamously he has Zelensky there, but he also has Orban, who's the opposite of Zelensky.
Yeah.
So he kind of balanced. Orban is sort of Zelensky's enemy in the European Union and with NATO. So he kind of balanced it there. He's got I see the Uruguayan president, the Chilean president. So I believe the Paraguayan president was there. And one thing that they all talked about is they did not realize how bad of a condition Argentina was in.
Was Bukele from El Salvador there?
He wasn't sitting in that. I believe Bukele came, but he was not sitting there. Yeah. These are all much bigger economies than El Salvador that were sitting up there.
Well, I know Bukele is very, very pro free market, though. So it's just I wasn't sure if he,
they've been using some of Bukele's practices in their fight against the narco terrorism in Rosario. Which you can debate whether this is good or bad. Our friend Bullrich became the Secretary of Security, and she's pretty hardcore. She's not a libertarian.
Yeah,
she's an important partner with Milei though, because she represents getting pro people on her side. In fact, she was running pro, which is the sort of the center right party.
Yes.
And putting her in the government, I think, was a really smart strategic decision. Well, not only she had experience. By the way, this is caused I think a little bit of a rift between her and Villarreal, but
I don't see Victoria Villarreal in here at all, but she must have been somewhere else. And also somebody pointed out too, Bullrich also apparently helped bring in the middle-aged to older women vote too.
Right. Bullrich endorsed and supported Milei and campaigned for Milei. And without her support, he would not have won. Without her and Macri's support, he would not have won.
Yes.
And that's one good thing about Macri is he went first. He failed.
Yeah. But
he opened the door, in my opinion, for Milei in several ways.
Yes, Bullrich. After all the nasty things that were said on the Fountain for Bullrich. Yes. But anyway,
Well, they were pretty nasty to each other in this campaign.
Yes, they were. Oh,
we covered that.
Yes, we did cover that. Yes. Oh, yes. And I don't know if maybe some governors showed up too. That's maybe possible. I don't know.
I'm trying to see if I recognize any governors.
Probably maybe some local, maybe like even the mayor of Buenos Aires or somebody like that might have showed up. But it's hard to say.
Jorge Macri's the Caba is the province, or is he the mayor of Caba, which is a province as well?
I don't know who all these people are. You know,
he's Jorge Macri is Macri's cousin.
Yes,
he's the governor of Caba, which is it's a historical thing, but there's a part of Buenos Aires that is independent from the rest of Buenos Aires, its own little province, and he's
there's the city and the province. Yes,
right, and he's the governor, and I guess you can call the mayor too of Caba, which is actually where Milei lives and got elected. And it's a little bit more right. Like Buenos Aires is more left wing, the province, but Caba always elects more center right people.
And really, from what I hear, Buenos Aires, the city itself, doesn't really have that many people. It's the whole province and the metro area where there's so many people.
Yeah, it's 15 million. And for example, my wife's city or town of La Plata has about a million or about 800,000. So, and that is included in Buenos Aires province. So yeah, the whole metropolitan area is about a third of the population of Argentina.
Yeah. And it's that, it's
and a tiny percentage of the area.
Well, about a third of the people in Peru live in and around Lima.
Right.
So, and I think it's kind of that way with Santiago and Chile too, but I'm not really sure. I just thought,
that's right.
And this is the congressional building, right?
Yes, in fact, this was controversial because he was speaking to the people. He was not speaking to Congress. So he was facing, his back was to Congress, and he was facing the people. I understand this is rare. This doesn't happen very often.
Yes.
And some of the legislatures actually had an issue with it. Of course, because they have a lot of self-importance, and Milei has really does not like them at all, which he has good reason to be.
And of course, this is how it's done in America. All the dignitaries are, I said, we need to take a copy of this and insert the Bernie into it. Bernie wearing his mittens and winter coat, but
that's right.
Yeah,
it's summer there. It's about the same time. I mean, a month off from our inaugurations.
That'd have been funny.
Which are in January. This was in December, of course. But it's very hot. I remember that day. It was like 80 something degrees.
Oh yeah,
it was very hot that day.
Well, it was almost coming up to what their summer equinox is. So if you're going to visit Argentina, when you have longer daytimes.
Right. I went in November. It was gorgeous. I recommend November.
That'd have been funny. Invite Bernie Sanders to your inauguration and said it might give him a heart attack or something. Why is he inviting me?
He's listening to all this free market stuff, and he's like, he hyperventilates.
Yeah. Anyway, and there's also a nice big courtyard out in front of this thing. So if you want to go protest, you can go protest there.
And they do. They go protest there all the time.
And, everybody's saying, oh, he's shutting down protests. No, he's saying that you cannot block traffic if you want to protest.
Which is a huge problem.
Yes.
They were doing, even during the what's the previous president?
Alberto Fernandez.
Yeah, Fernandez president with Cristina as the vice president. They were doing it twice a week, blocking streets and everything, blocking traffic, making it really tough for business owners and people that wanted to go places. They were doing this twice a week, and they were still giving them a ton of resources. They always wanted more. With inflation so high, they always wanted more. They never were satisfied, and they were doing this twice a week, and not just there in La Plata and all these other places. So, yeah, this is a huge problem in Argentina. This is somewhat of a problem of having your biggest city where the capital is too. I didn't realize until I started researching Argentina how kind of important that is to get your capital city outside. Why? Why? Because then if there's protests and whatnot, you're not blocking the major industrial and financial of your country. That's just wise. And Brazil did that with their capital city. Argentina obviously probably will never do that.
Yeah. I mean, America's like that too. We have a lot of different cities, and the other thing too is, our Argentina, Peru, Chile, they have one airport hub. I mean, they have Colombia is still pretty distributed, which is interesting. And Brazil has, they have the Brasilia, but they also have, Sao Paulo and Rio de Janeiro. So they're, they have a competition there between those two cities. But yeah, it's definitely not. And of course, Bolivia actually has two capitals. But yes, so let's get back to this, and we'll see what happens here. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I want to thank you for identifying all those people. I didn't think about the Orban Zelensky thing. Yeah, that's.
In fact, they got in an argument at Milei's. Famously, they got in an argument at Milei's inauguration right before this happened. You can see them arguing.
Yeah, did he realize that, or was he?
Well, Zelensky, Orban is blocking some of what Zelensky is getting as far as resources, and he wanted Orban to not do that. And guess what Orban did? He still is a thorn in the side of Zelensky.
I don't know if Orban hates Zelensky as much as he hates the EU, though. I'm not really sure what his motivations are.
Yeah, if you watch this Tucker Carlson, I know it was about Milei, but he's basically like it's a losing battle.
Yep.
It's a losing battle, and the Russians can't lose, that type of sort of thing. We're just wasting resources and lives.
At the same time, I'm still very sympathetic to the Ukrainians, mainly because of what happened there 90 years ago. But anyway, yeah, let's keep going. We got 30 minutes here.
A larga y triste historia de decadencia y declive, y comenzamos el camino de la reconstrucción de nuestro país.
Decadence and decline, yes.
Right. We're going to get a lot into the decadence and decline.
De manera contundente han expresado una voluntad de cambio que ya no tiene retorno. No hay vuelta atrás. Hoy enterramos décadas de fracaso, peleas intestinas y disputas sin sentido. Peleas que lo único que han logrado es destruir nuestro querido país y dejarnos en la ruina. Hoy comienza una nueva era en Argentina, una era de paz y prosperidad, una era de crecimiento y desarrollo, una era de libertad y progreso. Hace 200.
Are those anarchist flags?
Yeah, there were some anarchist flags there. Actually, they had the gold and black flags. They had the Malay lion flags, obviously Argentinian flags. So there was a plethora of flags there.
Yes,
at inauguration.
In America, we need to get rid of the porcupine and take up the lion. Also, I love the president's sash.
The history of that is that was created by the Free State Project and adopted by the LP. And it makes great sense for the Free State Project because we're here. We're not trying to impede on you guys, on the locals. We're trying we're here. We're friendly. We're peaceful. But if you come at us, we'll protect ourselves, right? Yeah. Whereas it was created for that, and then the LP took it, which I mean, it's not the worst. I love it for the FSP, but the LP, I agree. I think it should be more of a lion or something like that, more inspiring. I think they are kind of quote unquote libertarian animals, but whereas a lion, maybe not so much.
Well,
I think it might be a better symbol though.
Lions, you think of the Lion King, you think of the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. That's what people think. But yeah, let's keep going here. And he's got his glasses on too, which I think is always interesting.
Yeah, he does. Whenever he's reading, he has his glasses on, and most of his speeches he reads.
Yeah, was Fatima at this thing? His girlfriend?
She was at the inauguration, yes.
Yeah,
There's a famous clip of her smelling Visceral's hair. She's sitting behind her. It was pretty funny. She was at the inauguration. I don't see her sitting there. I think this is basically dignitaries, heads of state, that sort of thing. I think he's got some of his cabinet there.
Yeah.
So.
I don't know if his mom or dad are there too. Yeah, she seems like a very interesting person. But anyway, let's
her impressions of Cristina Fernandez de Kirchner are absolutely hilarious. I shared that in our group that we're in, and they're really funny. And if you watch her, she really can nail the voice and her mannerisms.
Yes.
She exaggerates a little bit, but it's and it's funny in her routine. She's always corrupt too, which is true.
Yes. Milei's girlfriend does celebrity impressions, and she has done Milei himself.
Yeah, she has.
It's so crazy. I can imagine doing a.
She's better at doing girls, but
Yeah, obviously, yes. But
she has done Malay her himself, and she's like he always says diamos and
yes,
which is like let's see, and she entonces, and she all of his things that he says over and over and over again when he talks, she was just repeating it, and it was pretty funny. Fatima is funny. She's cool.
Yeah, she's cool.
She's a great asset for Malay, I think.
Yeah, she's good at PR. Yeah. Okay, here we go. Yeah.
Años, un grupo de ciudadanos argentinos reunidos en San Miguel de Tucumán le dijeron al mundo que las Provincias Unidas del Río de la Plata no eran más una colonia española y que a partir de ese histórico momento seríamos una nación libre y soberana. Durante décadas nos enfrentamos en disputas internas acerca de cuál debía ser la forma institucional que nuestro país necesitaba. En 1853, luego de 40 años de haber declarado la independencia, bajo el auspicio de un pequeño grupo de jóvenes idealistas que hoy conocemos como la generación del 37, decidimos como pueblo abrazar las ideas de la libertad.
This is where Alberti comes. He was that part of that generation of 1837, and it was a variety of people. And when Argentina got its independence in 1816, there was basically civil wars after that, because they're trying to figure out how this government is going to be arranged. And there was this national versus federalist thing. It's an interesting history, but these guys were like, let's adopt the American type of form of government, and that's what these idealists in 1837 and most importantly Juan Bautista Alberti, who was a deputy in Tucumán, which is the province of Tucumán, and he's the one that really convinced people to adopt this constitution that really propelled Argentina to the fastest growth in the world. And I was actually thinking about it the other day. Argentina had basically the same arc. I mean, obviously the timelines don't match up with the United States, but they had the same arc from about 1860 as the United States. Very, very rapid growth.
Yes.
The progressive era. Where it went wrong was when the coups in the 1930s, and then and they also did the progressive era, but so did we. We ended up prosperous. They didn't. But it was really the coups in the 1930s, and then really the Peronist coup in the 1940s that elected Perón, and where they changed the constitution, and that's really when the era of decadence started, in my opinion. And so the arc is really similar, except for the United States actually deregulated and cut taxes and cut government in 1946. Argentina didn't do that. Argentina did this whole Peronist agenda, and whereas we kind of went back to free markets.
Yeah, it's also not unusual that once a country reaches independence, you have various factions who want to fight each other. America was largely saved because of George Washington. Because George Washington was one person that everybody liked. So, and sometimes that what's saved is you have one personality that everybody likes. And then there's the possibility though that person becomes a dictator. Which is why Washington's retirement in 1796 was just so unbelievably significant.
Yeah, very, very significant.
Even though of course, he did die 2 years later. So, but still, it was that really brought the whole thing together. Finland
Right.
kind of had a civil war after their independence. I mean, it happens in a lot of countries. It's usually,
Right.
yeah. And yeah, they adopted something. And I've also learned that there's very much a Spanish liberal tradition here that apparently did influence some of America's founding fathers, including Thomas Jefferson.
Right. Well, I forget what they were called, but yeah, there definitely was.
Yeah. Well, the author Cervantes.
Diocrats, but the School of Salamanca,
The
there was
economics,
some,
but also Cervantes, the author of Don Quixote, which is,
right.
still one of the most best-selling books in the history of the world. Yeah, it's very interesting. I really hope this can not only be good for Argentina, but good. And when I saw Milei's book in the airport in Lima, I thought, okay, he's making a difference. I mean, a cab driver in Lima knew who he was.
Yeah,
Uber driver,
it's
yeah.
actually it's interesting to get off a little bit off this topic. Is the president of Mexico is it Gonzalez, right? AMLO, right? Before
Yeah,
Milei was even taking office, he was talking about how terrible Milei was and how everything bad about Milei. Petri,
Petro in Colombia, yes.
Petro in Colombia was calling him Videla, and Pinochet and the former president, chancellor of Germany. We know who he is. He was calling him those names. Obviously Maduro in Venezuela was calling him a fascist.
Yes.
And they've been calling him, and actually Milei is responding to these people. And some of what he said, I think he probably shouldn't have said. He called Petro a assassin, terrorist, which he apparently was. And he called AMLO ignorant. And he took in some refugees or some political refugees from Venezuela. So some of these governments have had qualms with Milei, but they were the ones that started it. They're the ones before Milei was even elected that we're calling his ideas terrible. We're calling him a fascist and all these names.
Oh gosh. Well,
so it is interesting, and they are afraid. They're all afraid that his ideas will spread in their countries.
Yeah, I know a guy who, if he, he's a Facebook friend. I've met him. If he goes back to Venezuela, there's a good chance he'll be killed. So yeah, and apparently there were also a case where some Venezuelans were actually going down to the embassy and say, "Hey, we want to go to Argentina." I don't know. Of course, I don't know how you get them out of there, but it's, and apparently they were also volunteering for Milei's campaign in Argentina. So
the Venezuelans that moved to Argentina were avid Milei supporters because of what happened in Venezuela, and they saw it happening in Argentina as well. And if Massa would have won, I think I have total confidence Argentina would have turned into Venezuela as far as economically.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I think Massa would have been worse than Bregman, and that's saying a lot. Sometimes those ones are, but anyway.
Well, he would have all the problems with inflation. He would not have made any cuts.
Yeah.
There's just he has to be somewhat happy he lost. Now, for them, it doesn't matter. It's like Maduro in Venezuela. He's happy. He's rich.
They've got cash.
They're doing well. The people in the government are doing well. Just everybody else is very poor. So that was probably Massa in the Peronist idea is if they can consolidate power and in the legislature and whatnot, and he can take power, he can basically almost become a dictator.
Yeah.
The economy was gonna hyperinflate and go to hell if he was elected.
Anyway,
Milei's actions have saved them.
Yeah. Anyway, we're getting a little off topic, but they probably got offshore banks anyway, which is one thing Trump was too stupid to do. But anyway, but I mean, I almost guarantee they've got money hidden somewhere else, but who knows? Okay, let's go back to this.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we'll start. Yeah, we need to go. Yeah. What
Así,
a beautiful city.
se sancionó una constitución liberal con el objetivo de asegurar los beneficios de la libertad para nosotros, para nuestra posteridad y para todos los hombres del mundo que quieran habitar el suelo argentino. Lo que vino después de la sanción de esa constitución de fuerte raigambre liberal fue la expansión económica más impresionante de nuestra historia. De ser un país de bárbaros enfrascados en una guerra sin cuartel, pasamos a ser la primer potencia mundial. Para principios del siglo XX éramos el faro de luz de Occidente. Nuestras costas recibían con brazos abiertos a millones de inmigrantes que se escapaban de una Europa devastada en búsqueda de un horizonte de progreso. Lamentablemente, nuestra dirigencia decidió abandonar el modelo que nos había hecho rico y abrazaron las ideas empobrecedoras del colectivismo.
Nobody's ever talked
Durante
about
más de
this in
100 años,
Argentina.
los políticos han
Nobody's ever talked about what?
Just how they embrace these collectivist ideas.
Yes.
And didn't go the path of liberty, which is the United States more or less did, and then some of the other Western countries.
Yeah. I've heard it actually all got started in Uruguay and kind of spread that way, but it all spread, and all spread thanks to these corrupt college professors, or maybe not corrupt at the time, but these idealistic college professors. I mean, I don't know if anybody was really free from it. It's kind of sad too to think.
Yeah, I believe a part of them is they took they took their progress. In 1916 they elected a Woodrow Wilson type progressive. He was, and that's when he says 100 years of decadence. That's really what Milei is talking about.
Yeah, and they were totally out of World War I, right?
Yes, they didn't get involved in World War One.
I suppose having
Which was a good thing this president did was against that, which was good.
Considering all the European immigrants they had, I suppose it might have been a very divisive issue too.
Right, they're also thousands of miles away.
Yeah. South America is really pretty free from a lot of the world's insanity.
Right. And if you follow the United States, the United States got in that war because of Britain, which they just don't have the British influence. Yes. In fact, Britain by that time had attacked them twice. They didn't like Britain. Britain had attacked Argentina twice. So
when did they attack
invaded? They had invaded Buenos Aires twice. So
when were these attacks?
Trying to remember.
Yeah, they don't have a good.
It was in the 19th century. I'm trying to remember the exact date, but they were. It might have been in the 1830s, but you have to fact check me. But it was in the 1800s, and they attacked Buenos Aires and took control for like 60 days, and then got repelled. And then a year later, they attacked again. So. Yeah. Argentinians have had a mixed history with the Brits because but they've had these problems obviously with the Falkland Islands War,
Islas Malvinas,
the Malvinas.
Yes.
Of course, I like to call it the Malvinas. Of course, the Malvinas, and but Britain was one of the biggest investors in Argentina. So a lot of their rise in wealth and progress was because of British investment, because British was the richest country in the world and they were open to investment at the time. And so that's why a lot of the British architecture in Buenos Aires and et cetera, and a lot of the British investment all throughout the country helped them grow to become the richest country in the world. So they've got an interesting history with Britain.
Yes, they do. So okay, let's get back to this, and the subtitles are on.
Han insistido en defender un modelo que lo único que genera es pobreza, estancamiento y miseria. Un modelo que considera que los ciudadanos estamos para servir a la política y no que la política existe para servir a los ciudadanos. Un modelo que considera que la tarea de un político es dirigir la vida de los individuos en todos los ámbitos y esferas posibles. Un modelo que considera al Estado como un botín de guerra que hay que repartir entre los amigos. Señores, ese modelo ha fracasado. Ha fracasado en todo el mundo, pero en especial ha fracasado en nuestro país. Así como la caída del muro de Berlín marcó el final de una época trágica para el mundo, estas elecciones han marcado el punto de quiebre de nuestra historia.
Oh, I love it. He's comparing this now to the fall of the Berlin Wall.
Yeah, he's so well educated. It's kind of amazing. It's just you just don't see this in politicians ever.
We go back 30 years, we did not think we would still be fighting socialists now. I've said that 1,000 times, and it's true. But yeah, here we go. Yeah,
yeah.
What a beautiful city too. I'm just always amazed. That's good.
Yeah, it's stunning.
Libertad.
En estos días, mucho se ha hablado de la herencia que vamos a recibir. Dejen que sea muy claro en esto. Ningún gobierno ha recibido una herencia peor que la que estamos recibiendo nosotros.
Yep. This is where it gets very dark.
Yep.
El kirchnerismo, que en sus inicios se jactaba de tener superávit gemelos, esto es, superávit fiscal y externo, hoy nos deja déficit gemelos por 17% del PBI.
15%. I think
A su vez, de esos 17 puntos del PBI, 15 corresponden al déficit consolidado entre el Tesoro y el Banco Central. Por lo tanto, no existe solución viable en la que se evite atacar al déficit fiscal. Al mismo tiempo, de esos 15 puntos de déficit fiscal, 5 corresponden al Tesoro Nacional y 10 al Banco Central, por lo que la solución implica, por un lado, un ajuste fiscal en el sector público nacional de 5 puntos del PBI, que a diferencia del pasado, caerá casi totalmente sobre el Estado y no sobre el sector privado.
So that has got him in a little bit of trouble because, he has obviously a lot of the cuts are in the government, of course, but
yes,
he has gotten rid of price controls. He's cut subsidies, which for transportation and gas, for example. And so these were extremely important. They subsidized gas, I think, like $2 billion in the last 6 years or 4 years. I mean, a huge deficit buster. So what his opponents say is that he was lying here, that that these cuts have not just been on the state and have been on the people as well. Now, Milei will say it's 60-40, and Milei has really gone after them. I mean, you can go through all of the the firings, the cutting in expenses, the taking away their privileges, that sort of thing. So he really does focus on that, but he said he has raised some taxes to try to stabilize the state for deficit zero and cut these subsidies that have been people feel, and of course with the price controls. Now, these are all really good things for the future of Argentina. but are painful at the time. And in this speech, he also talks about how it's going to be painful for Argentina.
Yeah, this is the Palace of the Argentine National Congress, right?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, yeah, I just want to make sure we know where.
Yeah, it was.
What we're talking about, yeah. Okay, yeah, we'll start back up again. Yeah, still got a long way to go here. Yeah, it's a beautiful building. Yeah.
They're saying motosserra, which is chainsaw.
Motosserra?
Yeah, that's chainsaw.
Okay, chainsaw. Motosserra, chainsaw. Okay. Mm-hmm. That's good to know. Yeah, I had no idea. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I think I might have seen an American flag in there too, but I'm not really sure.
There's an Israel flag in there.
Okay, yeah.
There it is. You see it
yes.
There. Es necesario limpiar los pasivos remunerados del Banco Central, los cuales son responsables de los 10 puntos de déficit del mismo. De esta manera se pondría fin a la emisión de dinero y con ello a la única causa de la inflación empíricamente cierta y válida en términos teóricos. Sin embargo, dado que la política monetaria actúa con un rezago que oscila entre 18 a 24 meses, aun cuando hoy dejemos de emitir dinero, seguiremos pagando los costos del desmadre monetario del gobierno saliente. Haber emitido por 20 puntos del PBI como se hizo en el gobierno saliente no es gratis. Lo vamos a pagar en inflación. A su vez, el cepo cambiario, otra herencia de este gobierno,
What's that they're saying now?
I'd have to hear it. Hear it if you could play it. I generally don't have to listen to this read. I can understand without the subtitles, but sometimes if they're getting a chance, I can't.
El cepo cambiario, otra herencia de este gobierno, no solo constituye una pesadilla social y productiva, porque implica altas tasas de interés, bajo nivel de actividad, escaso nivel de empleo formal y salarios reales miserables que impulsan el aumento de pobres e indigentes, sino que además el sobrante de dinero en la economía hoy es el doble que había en la previa del Rodrigazo. Para tener una idea de lo que eso implica.
What's the Rodrigazo?
I think they're referring to it's either the I think it's the 1989 hyperinflation. That's what they're referring to. And I'm not sure why they call it Rodrigazo.
Yeah.
But that's something you fact check me. They also had high inflation in the dictatorship. So I believe it's referring to the Ministry of Economy.
Yes, they've had lots of periods of inflation. Yes. Okay.
Yeah, since 1946, they've had inflation the entire time, high inflation the entire time. There's never been a period where there was no inflation or inflation was under 2% or something like that. It's always been a constant battle, and it's been because of the last 123 years, they've had 113 fiscal deficits. So you have to pay for that in a number of ways, and debt or money printing, and they do plenty of both, which causes a lot of problems, and especially the money printing.
And nothing steals from the poor and the middle class like inflation. Let's go.
Yep. Recordemos que el Rodrigazo multiplicó por 6 veces la tasa de inflación, por lo que un evento similar significaría multiplicar la tasa de inflación por 12 veces. Y dado que la misma viene viajando a un ritmo del 300%, podríamos pasar a una tasa anual del 3.600. A su vez, tranquilos que no termina acá, la herencia sigue. A su vez, dada la situación de los pasivos remunerados del Banco Central, la cual es peor que la que había en la previa de la hiperinflación de Alfonsín, en muy poco tiempo se podría cuadruplicar la cantidad de...
Was Alfonsine somebody else in?
Yeah, Alfonsine. After they went to, they brought back democracy after the dictatorship. The dictatorship.
Yeah, that was in '83, I think. Yeah.
He was the elected president. He was a pretty terrible president. He was a radical. He was the last radical president, which is I believe he's the last radical president. Maybe Rua was also, but I think he was the last radical president, which is like the other side. They're like the Republican to the Peronists, but they're actually super socialist. They're basically the same thing. And yes, he was a big money spender and money printer, big time. And by 1989, they were in a hyperinflation. Then Milei's favorite president of the 20th century, besides Roca, came into power, which was Menem, and he's the one that brought their currency situation. He stabilized their currency situation by bringing it to par with the dollar, and he also did a large deregulatory decree, just like Milei did. Now he's way more he's very controversial, of course, and he's not very well liked. But Milei likes him.
Yeah, it makes me wonder if this is just some kind of horrible cycle that they can't seem to get out of.
Well, the 90s was a pretty productive time. The problem with Menem is he spent way too much money, and he ran big deficits. So it could be that, but Milei is not doing the issues of Menem, and he's also not doing the par thing. He's trying to ultimately he would like to have a competition of currencies, and that would, people believe, lead to dollarization of the country, which would permanently basically end their ability to print and their central banks. Any power it sort of has. So this is Milei's goal, and so that's a little bit different than Menem. That'd be an improvement over Menem.
Yes.
Dinero y con ello llevar a la inflación a niveles del 15.000% anual. Esta es la herencia que nos dejan, una inflación plantada del 15.000% anual, la cual vamos a luchar contra uñas y dientes para erradicarla.
Very important that he talked about how bad the inflation is at the moment he enters office.
Yes.
37,000% a year.
37%, 1,000% a year. Yeah.
That's what he brought up the day. Like this is why this speech was so important, because he's describing exactly how bad it is right now in Argentina. So he lets people know that it's really bad. It's not going to change overnight, and we're going to have to make big adjustments.
Yes.
Que parece un disparate. Quiero que sepan que implica una inflación del 52% mensual, mientras que hoy mismo ya viaja a un ritmo, de acuerdo a estimaciones privadas, que oscilan entre el 20 y el 40% mensual para los meses entre diciembre y febrero. Esto es, el gobierno saliente nos ha dejado plantada una hiperinflación, y es nuestra máxima prioridad hacer todos los esfuerzos posibles para evitar semejante catástrofe que llevaría a la pobreza por encima del 90% y la indigencia por encima del 50%. En consecuencia,
90%
no
poverty.
hay solución alternativa al ajuste.
See,
Por otra parte, la herencia no termina ahí.
no other alternative to an adjustment, because otherwise they're going to have 90% poverty.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Ya que los desequilibrios en tarifa son soles equiparables al desastre que dejó el kirchnerismo en el año 2015. En el plano cambiario, la brecha oscila entre el 150 y 200%, niveles también similares a los que teníamos en el Rodrigazo. A su vez, la deuda con importadores supera los 30.000 millones de dólares.
The debt import exceeds $30,000 million. Is that what he's saying?
Right. Yeah. That's the. Do you know why that happens? How that happened? The debt basically.
Yeah.
Because this brecha, which is the Spanish for gap.
Yes.
In the exchange rate between what is real, what in the economy, and what is what the government says the exchange rate is. If you experienced this when you went to Argentina. If you go through their banks and stuff and not through the black market, you're paying double the price. But
yes.
But let's say you want to buy dollars. Let's say you go the other way. You're a business in Argentina and you want to buy dollars. It's actually half the price. So the real market is 1,000. It's only like 350. You're actually getting a big discount. So what would happen is the government had to approve people to get dollars to import.
Yeah.
And the government would approve people. They would buy this stuff, these products on credit, and they would buy and then have a payment period, whatever it is, maybe 6 months, maybe 60 days, and then the government wouldn't have the dollars to pay the suppliers, which were from the United States or from everywhere else. So they would make the purchase on credit with the government, and they would pay for it, and the government was supposed to pay for it in dollars because exporters do not want the peso, they want dollars. And so this kept happening, and the central bank ran out of dollars, and they got this big debt. So they have more of this debt than they actually have dollars. In fact, when Milei took office, it was about $12 billion in debt.
Yeah.
Negative reserves. So they owed $30 billion to basically these suppliers from other countries that are exporters to Argentina, and they owed $12 billion to them.
Yeah.
Net. They had like $26 billion, but they owed that much. It's a huge amount that Milei had to figure out how to do. And that's why he brought in Caputo, who's this genius financier guy. And he's done like a miraculous job solving this stuff.
Yeah. Well, one thing I noticed too, though, is when he said 30, he's saying the equivalent of 30,000 million.
That's how they talk.
Yeah. That's the thing too. And also it was
billion.
that way. Some cases in older British usage, that a billion would not be 10 to the 9th power, but it was actually 10 to the 12th power. And that's what I'm wondering if the Spanish do it that way as well.
Right.
Although it could be something that varies among Spanish speaking.
30,000 million is 30.
Is 30 billion. Yes.
Right. And in fact, when my wife told me that the first time, I was like, what the heck? I laughed. I was like, that is ridiculous. Why wouldn't you just say, and her father actually explained it to me, but I was just like, that just makes no sense to me. Why would you have a word for a billion? Why would you do it like that? But
it was different naming. For example, it's different naming conventions, which I think they have kind of standardized on what American naming convention, but like it would actually go by a million would be 10 to the 6th power. a billion will be 10 to the 12th power, trillion will be 10 to the 18th. And I think it's kind of taken out the 1,000 million, 1,000 billion thing. I don't know. I'd have to look it up though, but
Yeah,
that is a convention. I mean, you don't really talk it. People don't talk in large numbers that much, so it's not something people really think about. But yeah, so
yeah.
So yeah, that's so yeah. Let's get back to this. We still got 20
Y las
minutes.
utilidades retenidas a las empresas extranjeras alcanzan los 10.000 millones de dólares. La deuda del Banco Central e YPF suman 25.000 millones de dólares y la deuda del Tesoro.
What's the IPF?
That's IMF.
Okay, International Monetary Fund. Okay, yes.
Yeah, I don't. I think that was just a bad translation.
Okay. Yeah, we do get bad. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes what happens is Milei is translated to my law in these subtitles.
35.000 millones de dólares adicionales. Esto es, la bomba en términos de deuda asciende a 100.000 millones de dólares que habrá que sumar a los cerca de 420.000 millones de dólares de deuda ya existente. Naturalmente, a estos problemas hay que sumarle también los vencimientos de deuda de este año, donde los vencimientos de deudas en pesos son equivalentes a 90.000 millones de dólares y 25.000 millones de dólares en moneda extranjera con organismos multilaterales de crédito. Sin embargo,
looks like there's another bad trade because he had 0 million to 25,000 million. What was that missing?
0.
Yeah, it was 0.
25,000 million is 25 billion.
But it went from 0,000 million, which obviously would just be 0. So there must have been some kind of mistranslation there.
Bro, yeah. That's why I don't. I read it in Spanish, not it. I use Spanish subtitles.
Well, yeah, I understand. Yeah, we're just, and of course, this won't do any good for anybody if I ever go on audio. But anyway, I thought it seems more authentic. I could have went with like an AI translation, but that I don't know. It seems more authentic this way.
Yeah.
Con mercados financieros cerrados y el acuerdo con el FMI caído por los brutales incumplimientos del gobierno saliente, el rollover de deuda es por demás desafiante aún para el mítico cíclope. Como si todo esto fuera poco, esto transcurre en una economía que no crece desde el año 2011.
True.
Y en línea a lo anterior,
not grown since 2011. Yes.
Right. Has not grown. In fact, it's gotten smaller.
Yes, it has.
El empleo formal en el sector privado se mantiene estancado en 6 millones de puestos de trabajo, llegando a la locura que el mismo es superado en un 33% por el empleo informal. Por ello,
he said 6 million private sector jobs. Wow, that's really not very many for a country of about 45 million.
Right. They have way more informal jobs.
Yes.
They haven't grown any of the private sector jobs, the formal jobs, since like 2011. And that's taxes. And we discussed this, so many problems with regulations and stuff.
Yeah, people are just going outside, and of course, things like prostitution, stuff like that. But yes.
No debería sorprender a nadie que los salarios reales se hayan destruido, ubicado en torno a los $300 mensuales, los cuales no solo son 6 veces inferiores.
Notice he said salaries like double 0 per month. What would? Yeah.
No, he. If I recall, he's talking like it's like $200 per month.
Okay. Yeah. These.
He basically says if they had normal growth, it'd be like $3,000 more per month.
Yes.
No, not per month.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it would be a lot more. I can't remember if it was per month or per year, but it's way below just normal growth. Way below.
Oh yeah.
Haberse mantenido la tendencia de aquellos años, o como lo decían ellos, el maldito neoliberalismo, hoy oscilarían entre $3.000 y $3.500 por mes. Nos han arruinado la vida. nos han hecho caer por 10 veces nuestros salarios.
See,
Yes,
Por lo
salaries dropped
tanto,
10 times. Yes.
tampoco nos debería sorprender que el populismo nos esté dejando 45% de pobres y 10%
but he's a
de
populist, but
indigentes.
he's criticizing populism, huh?
Yeah, he's criticizing populism. Yeah, yeah.
But he's a populist.
Whatever it means to be a populist. Yeah, it's a,
Yeah, whatever that means.
yeah, and he's also talking. Yeah, he's talking about a whole lot of things here. It's just, yeah, we got to get going. So yeah.
Luego de dicho cuadro de situación, que a todas luces parece irremontable, debe quedar claro que no hay alternativa posible al ajuste. Tampoco hay lugar a la discusión entre shock y el gradualismo. En primer lugar, porque desde el punto de vista empírico, todos los programas graduales.
This is the what?
This is the famous. Statement of this whole speech. Go ahead.
Just the point of view of all gradualist programs.
Yeah, this is the famous thing. I believe this is the most famous part of this whole speech. Go ahead.
Mientras que todos los programas de shock, salvo el de 1959, fueron exitosos. En segundo lugar,
and all the shock programs except for the one in 1959 were successful. Yes.
Yeah. Porque desde el punto de vista teórico, si un país carece de reputación, como lamentablemente es el caso de Argentina, los empresarios no invertirán hasta que vean el ajuste fiscal, haciendo que el mismo sea recesivo. En tercer lugar, y no por ello menos importante, para hacer gradualismo es necesario que haya financiamiento. Y lamentablemente, tengo que decírselos de nuevo, no hay plata.
So this whole no hay plata, there's no money. This is the most, that is the most famous statement of this by far. There's actually songs about this where he says lamentablemente no hay plata, and they have like music and like it's like EDM. It's hilarious. You should look it up. No hay plata, and they have it's really. And this is by far the most profound thing he said in this speech. And Milei is just so good at these like words where he comes up with words that stick. And this is the most famous, besides Viva la Libertad.
Viva la Libertad, carajo.
This is his second most famous one.
No hay
plata. There's no money. And every single time people ask for him, he's like, no hay plata. There is no money. And this got just spread out like crazy. Through social media and everything. No hay plata, and this is the most important part of the speech, in my opinion. That just we don't have money. We have no money to pay for the things that your populism. We have no money to pay for the subsidies you're used to. We're going to have to make an adjustment because our country is in such bad, dire shape that I've been describing and will continue to describe. We have no choice. We're going to have 90% poverty, or we're going to have to make these adjustments, and there's no iPlata. There's no iPlata. There's no other alternative. There's no gradualism like Macri.
Yeah, it's interesting too. They say plata instead of dinero. I find that interesting.
They do both.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Plata means silver.
Okay. Yeah. Like the Rio de la Plata, the river of silver. Argentina is also silver.
You actually find the king of Spain actually cries a couple times during the speech. I haven't where you can see him like wiping off tears.
Oh yes,
he was just so shocked. He was so shocked at how bad the situation in Argentina was. He did not know.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Speaking of Spain, was Abascal from Vox wasn't here, was he?
He might have showed up. He obviously wasn't
Yeah.
among the leaders, heads of state as
Yeah.
there.
I know he's good buddies with Milei though. The
Yeah,
way
he likes Milei. I think Milei is going to do another event in Spain for
Yes.
Vox. But he's
Okay.
done one where he got huge crowd, but he's going to do another.
Yeah.
Por ende, la conclusión es que no hay alternativa al ajuste y no hay alternativa al shock.
Mm-hmm.
Naturalmente, eso impactará de modo negativo sobre el nivel de actividad, el empleo, los salarios reales, la cantidad de pobres e indigentes.
He's saying it's going to
Habrá
get worse
inflación,
economically
es
for a
cierto.
while.
Yeah, it's going to get worse. Yeah, he's honest about it. I think that helps.
Pero no es algo muy distinto a lo que ha pasado en los últimos 12 años. Recordemos que en los últimos 12 años el PBI per cápita ha caído 15% en un contexto donde acumulamos 5.000% de inflación. Por lo tanto, hace más de una década que vivimos en esta inflación. Por lo tanto, este es el último mal trago para comenzar la reconstrucción de Argentina.
Is that Vivo Milei or what are they saying there?
Digo, does he says? I don't know if he says if Digo.
The crowd.
Yeah, I know. I don't know if he said Digo is he means says.
Luego del reacomodamiento macro.
What's the sueltos on that shirt? Cones sueltos with a lion on there.
Is it dreams?
Yeah, maybe you don't see
dreams.
Dreams, yeah.
Macro que vamos a impulsar, el cual será menos doloroso cuanto mayor sea la caída del riesgo país y cuanto mejor sea nuestra contención desde el Ministerio de Capital Humano, la situación comenzará a mejorar. Esto es, habrá luz al final del camino. En el caso alternativo, la propuesta sensiblera progresista, cuya única fuente de financiamiento es la emisión de dinero, derivará en una hiperinflación que llevará al país a la peor crisis de su historia, sumado a que nos meterá en una espiral decadente que nos equiparará con la oscuridad de la Venezuela de Chávez y Maduro.
You just mentioned Chavez in Venezuela. The darkness of Chavez. I love it.
Oh, so I just looked up the Rodrigo thing. We talked about this. Yeah. This was I knew it was named after the Ministry of Economy, but it was the economic calamity that brought into the dictatorship. So the economy under Perón, after Perón took power, he died and his wife became president, Isabella Perón. The economy blew up, and the military replaced her. So they're talking about this period that caused the military dictatorship because the economy was so bad. So that's that Rodrigazo. That's what it is. It's referring to the 1975
yes,
like just terrible macro environment. So that's what it is. I thought it was I knew it was one of those three, but go ahead.
Yeah, that was and some people were exiled from the country during then too. Yeah, that was a very
Isabella Perón is still alive. She's 93 and lives in Spain. She's still exiled.
She said anything about Milei?
No, I don't think she talks very much anymore. Possibly
not. Yeah.
Yeah, she has it's too bad because there's just so much she would have so much knowledge about how Perón got back into the country and into power after being exiled and how that happened, how did they convince the government, the military, to allow Perón to be president again, who was just a total sociopath. The more you learn about this guy was evil.
Yeah.
Luego de semejante cuadro de situación, no pueden quedar dudas que la única oposición posible es el ajuste, un ajuste ordenado y que caiga con toda su fuerza sobre el Estado y no sobre el sector privado.
Again, he gets criticized for that.
Sabemos que será duro.
Criticized for what exactly?
When he said the adjustment's going to be on the state and not the private sector.
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
Por eso quiero también traerles una frase sobresaliente de uno de los mejores presidentes de la historia argentina, que fue Julio Argentino Roca.
He's so controversial.
Julio Argentino Roca, who's that?
He was one of the presidents during their rapid growth period, and he was very free market, but he believed in like expansion and into territories that had indigenous people, and basically, yeah. So they did some of this bad things happened to some of the indigenous people. And so he's controversial, but he also was the best as far as economy and being a free market guy and that sort of thing. So the economy really grew under him. He was expanding the economy and allowed for free market policies. So he's kind of, if you know, like Andrew Jackson, some of these guys that did some good things like ending the net central bank, but also did some bad things to the Indians.
Yeah, I've heard the same accusations made against Bolsonaro too, that he was not good to the indigenous. And Brazil has a much larger indigenous population, I think, than Argentina does.
Yeah, Argentina doesn't have hardly any.
Yeah, I'm largely coming to the conclusion that the treatment of the indigenous might have actually been worse in South America, but it's hard to say. It's not been good though, but yeah, we'll see.
Viruses hurt them more too.
Yeah, viruses. Although they also have a rainforest that they can all hide out in, which is how they've been.
In Brazil, not Argentina.
Yeah, and in Peru too. Yeah, but yeah. So here we go.
Nada grande, nada estable y duradero se conquista en el mundo cuando se trata de la libertad de los hombres y del engrandecimiento de los pueblos, si no es a costa de supremos esfuerzos y dolorosos sacrificios. Pero nuestros desafíos no terminan solamente en el plano económico. El nivel de deterioro de nuestro país es tal que abarca todas las esferas de la vida en comunidad. En materia de seguridad, Argentina se ha convertido en un baño de sangre. Los delincuentes caminan libres mientras los argentinos de bien se encierran tras las rejas. El narcotráfico se apoderó lentamente de nuestras calles, a punto tal que una de las ciudades más importantes de nuestro país ha sido secuestrada por los narcos y la violencia. Nuestras fuerzas de seguridad han sido humilladas y maltratadas.
Well, he's talking about like one of our more important people are getting kidnapped and killed, and he's talking about Rosario, the city of Rosario, which is where they are fighting the narco traffickers, these gangs in Rosario. And they are thugs. They are a bunch of thugs. So
yeah, that's something people talk about when they travel abroad, though, too. Is you might even consider they do sell kidnapping insurance.
Yep. Wow. I went to Rosario and I loved it, but it's a beautiful city, and there's it's very, very, very vibrant. But
yeah, well, I'm sure most of the
more laid back besides the crime, but what?
And most of the big cities probably have neighborhoods that you do not want to go into.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think. I did. Yeah.
Cerrada durante décadas, han sido abandonados por una clase política que le ha dado la espalda a quienes nos cuidan. La anomia es tal que solo el 3% de los delitos son condenados. Se acabó con el siga-siga de los delincuentes.
And just like in America, the political class doesn't care about crime. They just go to their gated communities and stuff and let the criminals do whatever the hell they want.
That's exactly right. They don't care. In fact, Kishilov, the crime's really bad in Argentina right now, and especially in Buenos Aires province. I think Caba is better, but because Kishilov, one of Argentina, the last Kirchner governor and huge enemy of Milei, just does not care about crime at all.
Yeah, I would think crime is still largely a local issue. Is that right or not?
Besides the organized crime, but
yeah, but I mean, it's still something you're at least in America, it's your county sheriff or your city police department takes care of it more.
Right. It's Milei's not in charge of the crime in each province. And the problem is they have some terrible governors like Kishilov, which is the biggest province, Buenos Aires province. Yeah. And he just doesn't care about crime at all. And so
yeah. Mm-hmm. They say policia?
I think they're saying policia. They're saying police.
Yes. Policia.
Yeah. So they're basically saying we want more police arresting, and there's a belief that even some of our friend like Joram has is that they've disarmed, they've quote unquote defunded the police, right? So that, and there's so much corruption in their police force as well that it just they don't have guns either there, so people feel like sitting ducks to these criminals.
Well, that's why you need to legalize the drugs, is because it ends the corruption. But yes, and they need
guns,
definitely. Yeah.
They do legalize. Basically, this is one reason that Doug Casey loves Argentina, is he says that cocaine and like individual usage of drugs is not criminalized. So if you're just using drugs, you're not going to get in trouble. What you get in trouble is if you have large amounts of it and you're like distributing it. But Doug Casey, who likes cocaine, talks about how culturally cocaine is much more accepted than virtually anywhere else, especially at least where he lives, in some ways, because it's basically legal to use. So when we talk about the drug war, it's not exactly what it is like in the United States. It is really just focusing on the large amount of distribution.
Yeah. I asked another guy, said, if you're caught with cocaine, he said it depends. He said it depends on how much you have.
If you have a lot, then you're going to get in trouble.
If you have a lot, they assume you're selling it. Yes.
Right. If you have a little bit, it's not going to be a problem.
Yeah.
Which is not like the United States.
Estamos recibiendo un país donde la mitad de la población es pobre, con el tejido social completamente roto. Más de 20 millones de argentinos no pueden vivir una vida digna porque son presos de un sistema que lo único que genera es más pobreza. Como dice el gran Jesús Huerta de Soto, los planes...
I love a nice quoting, Jesús Huerta de Soto. He always quotes an economist in every speech. It's always great to hear that.
Yeah.
He'll quote Alberto Benegas Lynch too. Do you think the social fabric really is that bad, or the situation with the social fabric, or is? I think it's probably got. I don't know how it can be any worse than it is here, but you never know.
Well, when you have high inflation, you're not. Or problem with it is that the dollar helps a little bit with this, and but when you have high inflation, what you're not doing is you don't think as much about the future investments.
Yes.
So your time preferences change because this money's not going to be worth much tomorrow.
Yeah.
So your time preferences change. So instead of like investing in the future and being safe, you might let's just spend this on some alcohol or let's go to this
Yes.
party. And that is what this decadence of what inflation causes, this decadence where people don't do the prudent thing. They, because of inflation, they don't plan for their future. Because of inflation, they will do they have higher time preferences where they will buy alcohol, they will go to that party, they will not plan for their future.
Yeah.
And this is mitigated to some extent because they hold on to the dollar, so they accumulate dollars, which hold their value much better than the Argentinian peso. But yeah, that's a huge problem, and there is a lot of there's a lot of problems, and the crime is really bad. The crime is worse than the United States, unquestionably.
Well,
So I would say the social fabric is, they do have families in a lot of cases, but the social fabric is not great, especially in big cities.
Well, I mean, on this note, I would definitely, and when I say social fabric, I mean, are the cities clean? I can at least walk into, at least in Buenos Aires, I could walk into any little convenience store or a Starbucks or anything like that. And if I wanted to use the bathroom, I could. They didn't have to worry about homeless people coming in off the street using their bathrooms. I mean, is it a high trust or is it a low trust society? Do people feel, do people not even walk?
It's a much low. It's a much lower trust society. If you leave in New Hampshire here, you leave your phone anywhere or something, I have never worried that it's going to be stolen. There, 100% it's going to be stolen. It's going to be stolen. You can't even you got to be careful walking around with your phone just showing it. Or with jewelry, you don't want to walk around with jewelry. So
that's the same.
Yeah, the crime is much worse, and he just talked about it. Only 3% of crimes are convicted.
Oh,
so
yeah.
What does that say about criminals? That's a huge moral hazard. We can do it, and we're very unlikely to be caught. And I bet you, if they commit a crime against a politician, they probably will be caught. But if it's a normal person, no, they don't care.
Yeah, that's exactly,
Contra la pobreza generan más pobreza. La única forma de salir de la pobreza es con más libertad.
The crowd's funny.
Crowd's happy. What's that statue there, by the way?
6 millones de chicos.
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Hoy a la noche se irán a dormir con hambre, que caminan descalzos por la calle y otros que cayeron en la droga. Lo mismo ocurre en materia educativa. Para que tengan idea del deterioro que vivimos, solo el 16% de nuestros chicos se reciben en tiempo y forma en la escuela.
Wow.
Solo el 16%. Solo 16 de cada 100. Es decir, que el
16 out of 100 kids go to school. Is that what he's saying? Or?
No, that finish on time.
Okay.
And he gets into like the statistics where they don't know how to read. They're not learning how to read and all that crap.
Yeah. With libertarians, being so much into unschooling and homeschooling, how easy or hard is it to do that in Argentina?
It's illegal.
Oh, geez. That's a huge deterrent to moving there, but who knows?
Yeah, they do have lots of private schools and that sort of thing, but it's that's one thing that Milei wants to change.
That's good, yeah. But something else too, Scott, I got to ask you about is a few weeks ago I was in the Austin Library, and I saw this sign that said, "No children without adults under the age of 10." Now, I can remember going to the library by myself when I was 6 years old.
Wow.
Is this a place where kids can still do things unsupervised, or will somebody call the police on them like they will here in the U.S.?
The police aren't going to care.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Because here they'll
call it might be not wise to do it.
Well, in Peru, I can see 6 and 7 year olds, operating canoes on the big rivers. Now, if a 6 or a 7 year old was operating a canoe on the Mississippi or the Ohio River in America, everybody'd go nuts and it would be on the news.
Right.
and they're not wearing life jackets in Peru either. But anyway, yeah, let's go. Yeah. Okay, yeah, we still got about 12 minutes here.
El 4% de nuestros chicos no termina la escuela en tiempo y forma. A su vez, el 70% de los chicos que sí terminan la escuela no pueden resolver un problema de matemática básica o comprender un texto.
Sí.
De hecho, en las últimas evaluaciones PISA, la Argentina se encuentra en el puesto 66 de 81 y séptima en América Latina, siendo que Argentina fue el primer país en terminar con el alfabetismo en el mundo. Si se levantara Sarmiento y viera qué hicieron de la educación.
Who's Sarmiento?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, they just mentioned somebody named Sarmiento.
En materia de salud,
The crowd really
el
wanted an
sistema se
uplifting
encuentra
speech, and then they got
Crowd
this,
really wanted what?
an uplifting speech, and they got this like very depressing one.
I can imagine, but I think you got to tell a good
No,
leader.
it was very smart. It's extremely smart to do.
The responsibility of a good leader is to tell the truth.
Yeah, he talks about this in the speech. I will not give a comfortable lie. I will give an uncomfortable truth over like a comfortable lie or something.
That's part of the problem is most voters would rather get a comfortable lie.
Yeah,
los
but
hospitales están destruidos.
they're so bad off that the politicians always lie that they just don't believe them anymore. So when he's actually telling them that it's bad and blah blah blah, that builds trust in Milei.
Yes.
Los médicos cobran miseria y los argentinos no tienen acceso a salud básica. Tan es así que durante la pandemia, si los argentinos hubiéramos hecho las cosas como la media de los países del mundo, hubiéramos tenido 30.000 muertos. Pero
talking about healthcare there, I'm curious if you're an American and you got, like you're living off your pension or something, is it pretty hard to find good healthcare? I mean, or is it just like, you can find good healthcare in Mexico, you just got to pay for it?
Yeah, they have a government healthcare, of course,
Yeah.
where you can go to, and very, that's extremely hit or miss, most miss. But they do have some private plans and some private healthcare.
I figured that.
And for Americans, it'd be fairly cheap because doctors get paid like $5,000 a year there.
And you probably have price transparency like you do in Mexico.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah. No. I don't think anything could possibly be worse than American healthcare, just because it's
the Canadians worse, but yeah.
Yeah. It's this hybrid system that has combined the worst features of cronyism and the worst features of socialism, and it's put them all into one.
Yeah. One thing that it does, it gives incentives to people actually creating medical innovations. Because if you're in a social, like in Canada, there's really no reason you're not going to make that much money. You have to convince the government to create new inventions or medical.
Oh, yes.
Where in the United States, you actually have that incentive. So that's one reason why it's much better. But obviously, the United States system is a mess.
Yeah, an Australian guy said it to me, is if I have an accident, I break my arm, I'd rather be in Australia. And I think that is where you probably are better off in a socialist system. But if you're anything else, it's not better. But yeah.
Cuida y su ineficiencia, 130.000 argentinos perdieron la vida.
Because of lockdowns and stuff.
Yeah, he's criticized the COVID policies, and good for him.
Ese es el estado presente del que los políticos tanto hablan. Argumento que utilizan para justificar el aumento descomunal del gasto público que solo los beneficia a ellos. En todas las esferas, miren donde miren, la situación de la Argentina es de emergencia. Si miramos la infraestructura de nuestro país, la situación es la misma. Solo el 16% de nuestras rutas se encuentran asfaltadas y solo el 11% se encuentra en buen estado. Por eso, no es casualidad que mueran cerca de 15.000 argentinos por año en accidentes de tránsito. Lo que quiero graficar con
He's talking about the roads not being very good. Is that pretty fair or not?
Yeah, it was fun. My father-in-law, when he drove, it was like he was trying to avoid the potholes. It was like he was like going all over the road to avoid the potholes, especially when he was going to his little town of Galvez. So,
Also interesting in a place where you don't have snow, because a lot of times you get
well, they
potholes.
do have snow in the
Well,
south.
you get the freeze and refreeze, and freeze thaw can be really bad for potholes.
Yeah, in the south they have all that. It snows and all that. It's
Yeah.
like northern United States and the southern Argentina.
Oh yeah. And what's also really wild about a lot of big cities in South America is you have nothing, anything like any kind of a freeway system or limited access highways. You have to go everywhere from on streets.
They do have some in Argentina,
Yeah.
type of freeway type of systems.
Yeah.
con todo esto es que la situación de la Argentina es crítica y de emergencia. No tenemos alternativas y tampoco tenemos tiempo. No tenemos margen para discusiones estériles. Nuestro país exige acción y una acción inmediata. La clase política deja un país al borde de la crisis más profunda de nuestra historia. Cada uno de ellos tendrá que hacerse cargo de su propia responsabilidad. No es tarea mía señalarlos. No buscamos ni deseamos las duras decisiones que habrá que tomar en las próximas semanas, pero lamentablemente no nos han dejado opción. Sin embargo, nuestro compromiso con los argentinos es inalterable. Vamos a tomar todas las decisiones necesarias para arreglar el problema que causaron 100 años de despilfarro de la clase política, aun cuando al principio sea duro.
Yeah.
Sabemos que de corto plazo la situación empeorará, pero luego veremos los frutos de nuestro esfuerzo, habiendo creado las bases de un crecimiento sólido y sostenible en el tiempo. También sabemos que no todo está perdido. Los desafíos que tenemos son enormes, pero también lo es nuestra capacidad para superarlos. No va a ser fácil, 100 años de fracaso no se deshacen en un día, pero un día empieza y hoy es ese día.
Finally gives them something to cheer about.
Today is that, did he say today is that day or?
Yeah, hoy es este día. Today is that day.
Hoy es día.
Yeah, this.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Is that si se puede?
Maybe it's we can do it.
I think si se puede is yes we can, or
yeah, puede is can.
yes we
So
can do it. Yeah.
if that's what they said, sometimes the crowd have a hard time understanding.
Hoy empezamos a desandar el camino de la decadencia y comenzamos a transitar el camino de la prosperidad. Tenemos todos para ser el país que siempre soñamos. Tenemos los recursos, tenemos la gente, tenemos la creatividad y mucho más importante, tenemos la resiliencia para salir adelante. Hoy volvemos a abrazar las ideas de la libertad, esas ideas que se resumen en la definición de liberalismo.
Embrace the ideas of freedom, and the definition of liberalism, which they still use the proper definition of liberalism down there.
Right.
Yeah. And this is important too. You've got to end it positively. You can't be all. You got to leave people with hope. That's the whole point.
De nuestro máximo prócer de las ideas de la libertad, el profesor
Alberto Venegas Lynch, yes.
Lynch, hijo, que dice: el liberalismo es el respeto irrestricto del proyecto de vida del prójimo, basado en el principio de no agresión.
Notice how his energy level's getting up to. He's starting to. It's almost like he has a roar.
En defensa del derecho a la vida, a la libertad y a la propiedad, cuyas instituciones fundamentales son la propiedad privada, los mercados libres de intervención estatal, la libre competencia, la división del trabajo y la cooperación social. En esa frase de 57 palabras está resumida la esencia del nuevo contrato social que eligieron los argentinos. Este nuevo contrato social nos
I
propone un
think they were
país
saying "si se puede" again, but I'm not sure it wasn't quite as loud enough. But
distinto, un país en el que el Estado no dirija nuestras vidas, sino que vele por nuestros derechos, un país en el que las hace, las paga. Un país en el que quien corta la calle violando los derechos de sus conciudadanos no recibe la asistencia de la sociedad. Puesto en nuestros
he
términos,
talks about we're going to cut off assistance to these people who block the streets. Yes.
Corte no cobra. Corte no cobra means if you cut, you don't get paid. That's their famous line.
Corto no cobra. Yes.
Yeah, if you cut, you don't get paid. You don't receive your payment.
el que corta no cobra.
See? Corta no cobra.
Corta no cobra.
Un país que dentro de la ley permite todo, pero fuera de la ley no permite nada. Un país que contiene a quienes lo necesitan, pero no se deja extorsionar por aquellos que utilizan a quienes menos tienen para enriquecerse a ellos mismos. En cuanto a la clase política argentina, quiero decirles que no venimos a perseguir a nadie, no venimos a saldar viejas vendetas, ni a discutir espacio de poder. Nuestro proyecto no es un proyecto de poder, nuestro proyecto es un proyecto de país. No pedimos acompañamiento ciego, pero no vamos a tolerar que la hipocresía, la deshonestidad o la ambición de poder interfieran con el cambio que los argentinos elegimos. A todos aquellos dirigentes políticos, sindicales y empresariales que quieran sumarse a la nueva Argentina, los recibimos con los brazos abiertos.
There's that statue again.
Look at what that
Así-
statue means.
Do you know where they were taking these shots from, by the way? They looked like some of the shots were taken from a building or maybe from a
Good question.
helicopter.
Yeah, it could
No
have been
importa
drone.
de dónde venga.
Yeah, drone. Oh, there's a lion. I love it.
Yeah.
A lion stuffed
But
animal.
he has to be
Yes.
very hot.
No
You gotta be
importa.
sweating a lot.
Is it somebody in a costume or is it somebody maybe holding it up? Yeah, it's got to be
Yeah,
hot.
people love those. His
Yeah.
followers love to wear those costumes.
It's hotter in hell and things like that. Although
Yeah,
you could
it
take the
was
head
hot.
off and just hold it up over your head too. That might be.
The Chilean president, you see him there trying to cool himself down. He doesn't like this speech too, so he's like, I have to sit through this speech.
Oh gosh, yes, I can imagine. Yeah. Yeah. Mhm.
Que hayan hecho antes. Lo único que importa es hacia dónde quieren ir. Aquellos que quieren utilizar la violencia o la extorsión para obstaculizar el cambio, les decimos que se van a encontrar con un presidente de convicciones inamovibles, que utilizará todos los resortes del Estado para avanzar en los cambios que nuestro país necesita. No vamos a claudicar, no vamos a retroceder, no nos vamos a rendir. Vamos a avanzar con los cambios que el país necesita, porque estamos seguros que abrazar las ideas de la libertad es la única manera en la que podremos salir del pozo en el que nos han metido.
Yeah, there's that Israeli flag again. Yeah.
Milei.
I think he actually is holding that lion head over his head. It looks like somebody is holding it up.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
It's cooler that way.
Dangerous.
Por
That'd
lo
be
tanto,
dangerous.
y para ir terminando, que quede claro, hoy comienza una nueva era en Argentina.
Today a new era begins. Yes.
El desafío que tenemos por delante es titánico.
I think I see a Gadsden flag too. Looks
Yeah,
like
they love the
government flag.
Gadsden flags.
Pero la verdadera
His
fortaleza
supporters
de
love
un
the
pueblo
Gadsden flags.
se mide en cómo enfrenta los desafíos cuando se presentan. Y cada vez que creemos que nuestra capacidad para superar esos desafíos ha sido alcanzada, miramos al cielo y recordamos que esa capacidad bien podría ser ilimitada. El desafío es enorme, pero lo afrontaremos con convicción, trabajaremos sin descanso y llegaremos a destino. No es casualidad que esta inauguración presidencial ocurra durante la fiesta de Hanukkah, la fiesta de la luz,
This is a
ya que la
famous
misma celebra la verdadera esencia.
Yeah, he talks about Hanukkah, the festival of lights. Yeah.
but this is one of his famous statements as well. I believe he used this on the campaign trail, so it's not new, but you'll see.
Yes. Well, it's also pretty a little bit before Christmas.
De la libertad. La guerra de los macabeos es el símbolo del triunfo de los
The War of the Maccabees is the symbol of triumph. Yes.
débiles por
he
sobre
gets
los
to it.
poderosos, de los pocos por sobre los muchos, de la luz por sobre la oscuridad y sobre todas las cosas, de la verdad por sobre la mentira. Porque ustedes saben que prefiero decirles una verdad incómoda antes que una mentira confortable.
Yeah, incommoda truth versus uncomfortable truth versus
Yes.
comfortable lie.
Yes. And people apparently were actually lining up the night before just to see this inauguration and stuff.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think it was good.
It's funny. Chase Oliver was in Austin, and I had to make the announcement the night before. I said, "Make the announcement. Be sure to get up tomorrow and watch Milei's inauguration. It's at 8:00 our time."
Yeah. I was gonna host a party at the Shell. I
Yeah.
think we had Robbie the Fire the night before performing, so it's kind of difficult too. And then I saw the time of his inauguration because they're 2 hours ahead.
They were 3 hours ahead when we weren't on daylight savings time. But yeah.
No, I think from East.
Oh yeah, that's right.
You're
East,
Central,
I'm
I'm East Coast.
Yeah, you're East, I'm Central. That's right. Yeah.
Right. So it's only an hour ahead of us, 2 hours during daylight savings time or standard, whatever. So I was gonna have a party to watch it, and it was so early. It's like, this makes no sense. Nobody will come.
Yeah,
9 o'clock our time.
I had a festival I was attending that weekend, and I partially blew it off just to watch the inauguration live.
Yeah, I watched it live.
Yeah. Looks like somebody's got a picture of a dollar with, I assume it's got Milei's face on it.
They're talking about dollarization.
Yes, they'll make Milei dollars.
Yeah.
Then there's that white flag. I think it says Libertad Carajo or something.
Estoy convencido de que vamos a salir adelante.
He says, I think that might be the first time he said I during this whole thing. I'm not sure.
Not very much.
Recuerdo cuando hace 2 años, junto a la doctora Villarruel, hoy vicepresidente de la Nación, ingresamos a esta casa como diputados. Recuerdo que en una entrevista me habían dicho, pero si ustedes son 2 en 257, no van a poder hacer nada. Y también recuerdo que ese día la respuesta fue una cita del libro de Macabeos 3:19, que dice que la victoria en la batalla no depende de la cantidad de soldados, sino de las fuerzas que vienen del cielo.
Depend on the force, but yeah. So has he been aligned with Villarruel for 2 years?
Yeah, they were the two La Libertad Avanza people that won in Congress in 2021.
Yes.
There was only two of them, him and Visha Ruel.
Yeah.
I
Now,
think they're both in Caba, but
yeah.
I think they're both in Caba, but autonomous Buenos Aires.
Yeah. She's also never married, right?
I don't believe so.
What is Karina also never married too? By the way, we were wondering about that.
I don't believe so. They don't have
Yeah.
any kids. He doesn't
So,
have any
yeah.
nephews.
And Milei and Milei, Javier Milei is also never married. So yeah, that's
there's some talk about him maybe having a child though. We'll see. I don't know. Maybe Fatima if she's old enough. I don't know.
Yeah, who knows? Yeah.
So.
Well, he could probably. There's probably plenty of younger women who he could get with at this point, but who knows?
Right. He could. He needs to be like Tyler, the president, John Tyler, who had a child when he was like 75, and then his child had a child when he's 75, and then he was born in 1790, and I believe he has one grandchild still alive.
I think so as well. One of his grandsons is still alive.
Yeah, I mean he's like in his 90s, unless he died recently, but still, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Por lo tanto, Dios bendiga a los argentinos y que las fuerzas del cielo nos acompañen en este desafío. Muchas gracias. Será difícil, pero lo vamos a lograr. ¡Viva la libertad, carajo! ¡Viva la libertad, carajo! ¡Viva la libertad, carajo!
That was a great speech. Yeah, it was.
Yeah, and he could have when he talked to his crowd later on at the Casa Rosada, and it was much more of a uplifting rah-rah speech.
Yeah.
But this one was more strategic, and he wanted to set the record straight of how bad it was, the situation.
Yes.
So
yeah. And what do we say in the last?
He's over 100 days now, so
yes.
He's like 110 or something days into his.
I got so busy with the holidays and stuff, I just didn't. And then I went down there. I just didn't get around to doing that speech. But got to catch up on some things. But
he's done some really good ones. I like this one, the one in a few days where he did about. So he didn't really talk about the deficit fiscal or the fiscal deficit as much in the speech. But in every other interview and every other speech, and him and Caputo, and I think reiterated by everybody in his cabinet, talking about the deficit fiscal or the fiscal deficit. I hear it so much in Spanish. Which is obviously spending more than you take in in taxes, and how Milei wants to reach deficit zero. I don't believe he talked about deficit zero in this speech, and. Caputo did a public address a few days after the speech to talk about their economic thing. They did the DNU on Wednesday. This was Sunday. They did it on Wednesday. He did the bases law. He put in the bases law and tried to get Congress like a week or two after that. He was moving at light speed to begin his administration. It was kind of amazing, and which he needed to do. So now that the Congress rejected his bases law, his omnibus law, he can blame it on them. And because they rejected it, and he's still maintaining his goals of deficit zero so far, Milei can say, I'm achieving everything. I'm achieving everything without the Congress. So he's moving so fast that it's hard for his opponents to even. It's the way he has to do it. Instead of Macri, who did this gradualism thing and didn't work. And by the way, Macri at the end of his term started to realize he needed to make an adjustment, but the timing didn't work out because he started to try to make it as adjustment right before his reelection. So the economy starts getting worse right before his reelection, and he got slaughtered in his reelection. So Milei's doing it smart. Milei's doing his adjustment from day one. He cut the ministries in half that same day, a few hours later. and it's just how it needs to be, and that'll give them a couple years for the midterms to turn around the economy, and then hopefully in 4 years, the economy will be rolling, and Milei will have a real, will be like Ronald Reagan winning his second
Yes.
term with a massive margin. So that's the goal, and he really needs he needs to go fast because he needs a nice midterm election, because Congress is not working with him, especially the Senate. The Senate's terrible. The deputies is a little bit better, but it's still very difficult because he relies on the radicals. Remember Alfonso, the terrible president from the 80s? That's his party. So he's relying on the radicals, who are opposite of Peronists, but so similar.
Yes. Yeah, that's what I'm wondering. I mean, and if he ends up like Reagan winning, if he shows that he really has a mandate, he
has a mandate. He won with record amount of votes this time, 56%, record amount of votes. So he has a mandate.
Yeah, well, it had to go to the third round. Yeah, I mean, if he did that like in the first round, or
well, that's what Christina did in 2011. She won in the first round with 54%.
Yeah.
So, right, and that's the fall of the Kirchner so far. 54% to they have one governor left, and he got less than 50% of the vote.
Yeah, so. and maybe get some more governors on his side. I mean, there's a lot to clean up here. It'll take a while, but I think the significant thing though too is people have said he's already won because he's actually possibly, there's possibly a philosophical re-education happening in the country, and I think that's going to be outstanding.
Well, a lot of the things are doing very well as far as some of the state. I mean, he's had two fiscal surpluses in a row for the first time since 2011. Yes. The country risk has dropped precipitously, which means that people are more likely to invest in the country. The government bonds have risen a lot, which helps them with that, which means that their bonds are more valuable, and helps with it. That helps with the short-term bonds. Helps get lower interest payments that they have to do. There's so many very positive things that are happening in the country right now, and more countries are looking actually to invest in Argentina, which is what he needs to do, because he's cutting all this other spending. He needs to bring in some other investment to increase wages. So I think looks like April is going to be another really tough month in Argentina. I was just looking at some of the increases are pretty, because they're cutting out all these these subsidies and these the price controls. The increases are going to be more, although inflation is continuing to come down, but the increases as far as certain things are going to continue to rise because of the lack of subsidies. But overall, inflation is coming down. It's still very high, but it is coming down. So I think he's doing a really good job. And I think, they really want to coup him. They really, really, really want to coup him. And they want to reject his DNU. But right now, his executive order to deregulate the economy. But right now, his popularity is very high still. And
that's good. And hopefully it'll stay that way. This is one of the, there's been some criticism out there too of Milei sucking up to the U.S. or whatever, and being too friendly with the U.S. If he's too unfriendly to the U.S., there's a possibility he might get assassinated or get couped.
That's right.
That way.
Yeah, that's
it's not the same as if he's an American president,
Right. Some of the criticisms, I think, are people that just don't care about Argentina at all. It's like they believe in a pure libertarian president. If they're not pure, it's like they have these purity tests, Meanwhile, Milei's actions have all been to benefit the Argentinian people by cutting government and freeing the markets. So that's been really frustrating. So they're looking at all they're putting American standards onto Argentina.
Yeah.
This is a country that doesn't even have a military, really,
Yeah.
Of anything to
You
speak
know,
of. This country that has no interest in causing world problems as far as through military intervention.
yeah.
He's actually people talk about he's actually expanding his commerce with BRICS. So with China, they are increasing their trade relations.
Yeah.
With Russia, he's not done any sanctions.
Yeah.
In fact, Russians are free to go to Argentina still. So it's like he's somewhat. It seems to me that he's kind of playing both sides as well. So he's siding. He's verbally siding with the United States, and in some ways, but then he's secretly creating these free trade agreements with China. For example, the first time ever they're going to be able to export wheat to China for the first time ever. So there's
a lot of wheat, yeah.
Right. So there's just a lot that he's doing that people don't realize. And sucking up to the United States, yeah, he wants United States private investment. Who wouldn't?
Yeah.
China doesn't do that much private investment. They do state investment. Whereas the state will be like, oh, we'll do this for that. We'll give you this money for with these strings attached. It's not easy in China for private people to invest in Argentina. Whereas he wants that private investment from the United States and from other countries, and that's going to come with some baggage. The CIA went down to Argentina because that part of their job is they believe it is to protect foreign investments. That's what half the reason they go around the world and cause chaos is to protect foreign investment. So,
I'm very much of the attitude that I think the federal government if you've been kidnapped or taken prisoner or in another country, I think the government does have a role in helping save your life, but your property, tough shit. That's
right. That should just be a risk of
your property, tough luck. Yeah.
Right. That should just be a risk of you investing. And I 100% agree with you on that. And then famously, that's what Smedley Butler concluded with the wars are about is protecting private investments in foreign countries.
And they're trying to promote, and they usually end up going to promote cronyism. I don't know if they've ever really tried to promote capitalism elsewhere.
No. I mean, look at Paraguay. They had that terrible dictator for forever.
Yeah,
he was aligned with the United States. So
there
is Pinochet is a very rare exception.
They were also very much aligned with the dictator who started the War of the Malvinas until he started the War of the Malvinas. And it's like, he's going to war with Britain. No, you can't do that. And Thatcher was too. And then that
was completely tried to raise national fervor because that government was becoming so unpopular. So they're like, let's just take the Malvinas. They've always wanted to do that. So
and I got to ask you, does anybody in Argentina actually want to go live there? I mean,
well, they're not allowed to really just live there.
Yeah, but if they could, I mean.
So the British did kick them out. So when the British took control of the Malvinas, they did kick out a bunch of Argentinians.
But would they want to actually go live there? I mean, it's this
naval. There's only 3,000 people
out in the middle of nowhere. Who really wants to live there? I was talking.
If you're a fisherman, they found a bunch of oil. They found a ton of oil off the coast of the Malvinas. So there could be some other things. I mean, it's pretty. You can do tourism, that sort of thing. But no, I don't think it's going to have I think there's only like less than 10,000 people live there now.
Yeah.
So I don't think it'll be much more than that. It's just Argentinians believe it's theirs.
Yeah.
And I think they have a good argument for that. He could just look at a map. Yeah.
Yeah, well,
How far away is Britain and how far away is Argentina?
we were.
And the Brits, as far as I understand, did kick off Argentinians off the island.
Yeah.
So
Well, I was talking with a guy too. Said they also apparently they have also had little battles over these worthless islands way down south with Chile. And it's like another place. Does anybody really want to live there? It's.
Oh yeah, they always have some.
Apparently, that's about shipping lanes too. But yes.
Yeah, they always have border disputes with Chile. They get along mostly with Chile, but their states really sometimes don't like each other.
Yeah.
That's why Milei actually doesn't. It's funny. Boric is a socialist. He's the president of Chile, but Milei doesn't attack him because I think Milei wants a good relationship with Chile. So he's only attacking the people way up north, like in Mexico or in Colombia or in Venezuela. He doesn't, and he attacks. He's actually, and he attacked Lula as well. But he's actually since he's been elected, he hasn't really talked a lot about Lula. And they've actually, like the Chinese, they've increased commerce and trade with them. I believe plane flights are more free now, and so they've actually increased commerce and trade with Brazil, and he's toned down the rhetoric on Lula. So the countries directly near him, he's much nicer, and then those countries that are like way farther away, no threat, he's like, oh yeah, Petro is a terrorist assassin.
Well, you've got to be on good relations because some of your citizens go there now and then. I mean, the Argentina-Chile border is the third longest border in the world, and it's funny too. When I went to Montevideo and I went to that plane crash museum of the flight from Uruguay, it actually crashed in Argentina, but they walked west and went to Chile, and so when they got to Chile, the Chilean military actually helped them get out of there, but then they realized, okay, we got to let the Argentines clean this up because really we're not supposed to be here, but because they did go onto Argentine soil to rescue them, but they figured, well, somebody's got to go rescue these guys because they've been up in the Andes for 2 months with
that's a crazy story. There's a movie about that, I believe.
Yeah. That's worth visiting. Yeah, that's one thing I did visit in Montevideo. It was kind of interesting. Just you get a feel for what really happened. It was then you leave the museum feeling like you're an expert on the whole thing. But
that was in the 70s. I think that was when either Perón started as president.
Yeah, 71 or 72, something like that.
Well, maybe it was before Perón, but maybe it was during the military. But yes. Argentina. It's interesting. Every decade they had a military coup from 40 to 19. You could say 1980s. So every decade they had at least one military coup. So it's caused a lot of, and they weren't like Pinochet, who was much, he's got his issues, but he was better than these guys. So this country just has never been very functional. So it doesn't surprise me that the Chileans saved the people on that flight after like 70 days, or I can't remember how many days they were in the Andes.
They went to Chile because that's where there was a decision, did we go west or go east, and they went west because they thought they were further west than they were, but it just ended up that way.
Right. Yeah. So I'm excited about Milei. I think he's doing a great job. Let's see if he can get anything passed in Congress. I'm not hopeful at this point, but getting he could. I think the competition of currencies is possible. Reaching deficit zero is possible. Cutting the state through the motosserra, through the chainsaw and the blender, he's doing those. So it is, to me, I think what he's doing is heroic. I'm sorry, what reason writer, but I think he's heroic.
Yes.
And he would absolutely be killed. He would if he was in the wrong situation by his opponents, he would absolutely be cooed if he had just a little bit less popular support.
Yes.
Or if the Congress was just a little bit worse than the deputies, he would absolutely be cooed. These people want to do it all right now. They're protesting to coup him. What he's doing is courageous. I'm very courageous. The governors are all against him. At times it feels like the entire state is against Milei.
Yeah, that's very interesting.
So what he is doing takes big guts.
Yeah, I did. I've done a little more in-depth discussion of Anthony Lombardi's article that appeared on the Reason website. Yeah, I said it was in Reason magazine. It's actually on the website. Maybe it will be in the magazine. But I did notice one thing that she actually tweeted a week ago that her grandfather in 1977 disappeared.
Yeah, so that's the context of all of this. That's probably why she might have some deep hatred of Malays, because Milei, there's this whole thing where 30,000 people were disappeared during the Videla government, which was evil, and I think Milei
yes.
would admit it. But it looks like that number is just made up, that it was closer to like 8,000, maybe 10,000 people were actually disappeared, and a lot of them were terrorist type people. So there's this whole debate, and all the lefties, and one of the guys that was Montenegro, that was one of the terrorist type people, and they're both sides of the terrorists are terrible too.
Well,
the terrorists were, it was a war between the two.
Yeah.
And one of the top terrorist guys said, "Yeah, we just made that 30,000 number up. That's just a made up number. We just made that number up out of. There's no basis. We did it to get more popular support." And this is a guy that was a terrorist that changed his life, and it changed. But he's like, "We just made that number up," and so Milei has always been like, it's only like 9,000 people that were disappeared. Yeah. And so this Antonella's and probably did have her. My mother-in-law saw people get disappeared in front of her own eyes. So it did happen. But
that stuff like that hangs with you for a long time, though.
Right.
I don't know if she ever knew her grandfather. We don't want to get too much into somebody's personal life, but a lot of this stuff really, especially if you see it at a young age, it can have an impact. And I don't want to, I want to bring somebody like that to fight the good fights. It's because they are fighting some good fights. It's
right.
There's also, I think, the element of some people going over to the woke left. I mean, it's very interesting that, this week there is a conference, the Ayn Rand conference in Latin America, and they're going to have Milei there, and they're going to have
that's funny.
Iran Brook and some of the high executives there, and they do have they have a young lady who's a fellow or something named Augustina Vergara Cid, and she's actually from there. She's actually working on getting her American citizenship. I think she really wants to be an American, and I don't know if she's really changed her mind, but we won't speculate. But it's a very interesting to see how
Argentinians on the conservative and libertarian side really love the United States. So they admire the United States, and the Peronists and stuff are very anti-United States. So they view them as like imperialist and blah blah blah. They have all this leftist sort of rhetoric towards the United States.
This is a kind of a contention between American libertarians and libertarians outside of America, is because
that same with the Israel thing.
When the libertarians see America, they think of Thomas Jefferson, they think of the Declaration of Independence, and we just think about how disgusted we are with how the country is, and it's just
right. And that's very that's the case. They all love Trump, including Milei loves Trump. They see him as more of a capitalist representing capitalism and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of what they see in Israel too. I find that the United States, they don't have any dollars or money going into this. They don't have any play into this situation. They're not supporting at all you people that just hate Milei. They're not giving your tax dollars, more of your tax dollars are going to fund Israel's war on Gaza than Milei is ever asking any Argentinians. Okay.
Yeah.
So this, like, I'm somebody that's a finance and accountant person. There's this idea of materiality. If you're familiar with this, there's nothing Argentina does in this situation is material. We're talking about United States. Very material. Yes. Argentina, nothing. So, this guy's 99% of his actions are 99% are pro Argentina, are trying to make Argentina better. He wants to reduce inflation, increase growth, and two, decrease insecurity or crime. That's his goals. That's what he says. All he wants to do in Argentina, but because he says a few words that people don't like about Israel, even though he's doing nothing to change that situation whatsoever. That he's this terrible monster.
Well,
even though he's risking his own life.
Yeah, he definitely is. I don't, as an American, I wouldn't care at all if our president came out and said, I'm a big fan of the Boston Celtics, or I'm a big fan of the Philadelphia Flyers, or some other team that I hate. And if he even goes to all their games, I don't really care, on his own money. But if he decides suddenly I want to use taxpayer dollars to help the Celtics or the Flyers, I'm just like, no, you can't do that.
Right.
There is a difference here. It's a huge difference.
Right.
And I think it's okay for libertarians in America to be cheerleaders too, even though we may not advocate, for direct action. And some libertarians do, even do take direct action. RFK2's son is fighting there. That's fine. I won't begrudge him for doing that. If you want to, he's fighting in Ukraine. If you want to go fight the fights, I really am. Another thing too, Scott, I've got to say too about a difference in politics. Is there a movement in Argentina? America has this unbelievably large scaremongering. The hatred of immigrants is probably as high in America as it's ever been. Does that exist in Argentina at all, or do they? I get the impression that they really like immigrants. They like
they don't. They especially Bolivians are kind of viewed as lesser in Argentina. Not just kind of, they are. So there's this whole thing that Argentinians are racist and all that stuff. I'm not going to say they are, but they were the most advanced economy.
Yes.
And they were the aristocrats. I was talking to my older friend, and that's what he said. Oh, the Argentinians are the aristocrats, and that's how they viewed themselves over there, is because they were so much more advanced than all the other countries in South America. It's insane. They were like the richest country, and like countries like Paraguay and even Chile. Chile's done a great job, but Chile for the longest time was exceedingly poor. Bolivia is still exceedingly poor. Paraguay's come up a little bit, but it's poor.
Yeah.
And Brazil, it's mixed. So they were the richest people, and part of that is they kind of viewed themselves as a little bit better. There is some. Milei, there was one thing he did within the last couple of weeks is they were actually giving welfare payments to Bolivians that were getting welfare from Argentina and going back to Bolivia, and he shut that off.
Well, good. He actually shut off the
payment.
He
shut off the contraband. Bolivians were buying subsidized food in Argentina and taking it back to Bolivia.
Oh.
And there was actually in the Bolivian news, they were talking about how this was severely affecting their economy because they weren't getting the subsidized Argentina. They're like, we need to subsidize Argentinian food. So,
but does it always come down to though? It's not. They don't. You hate the handouts. You don't hate the immigrants, but you end up wanting to punish the immigrants instead of just getting rid of the handouts.
Well, they've been very pro-immigrant historically, but it's all been like Southern European immigrants. So over half the population is Italian. They've got a large, decent percentage is Spanish. Obviously, the language is almost a mixture of both.
Yes,
but it's been immigration's been good for Argentina. It's just that there's just some they kind of view Bolivians and stuff, and it's not uncommon actually. The rest of the countries do well as like kind of like they're less developed, and Paraguayans as well. So there definitely is some problems with immigrants.
And some of those countries do still have a substantial mix between the indigenous and the descendants of Europeans.
It's not Argentina.
Yeah, not Argentina.
Because of Roca.
Bolivia is very mixed. Paraguay is very mixed. Peru is still very mixed.
Right.
And Brazil, I mean, there's over 200 languages spoken in Brazil. There are over 80 languages spoken in Peru. Bolivia, I think, is like in the 30s or something. There's all these different languages spoken.
Argentina has a few in the south still, in like Chubut and all those places. But
because I asked people,
it's in a very, very European country. Them and Uruguay are very, very European.
Oh yeah, Buenos Aires felt more like Madrid than any other city I'd been to in Central or South America.
Right.
And people, and I've asked people this question, what's the third most spoken language in South America? You got Portuguese, you got Spanish. The third most spoken language in South America is Quechua.
Wow.
Which was the ancient language of the Incas.
Right.
And there's some debate as to whether or not it's a language or a language family, but
I didn't know that. That's probably more primarily in the south.
That's mostly in southern Peru. And maybe northern Chile, but yes.
And on the mountains, of course.
Yeah.
Range.
Yeah. Next time I go down there, I definitely got to check out some of the natural beauty. Either go to Ushuaia or I've heard there's so many beautiful places down there.
Oh, there's so many. Every place is very different. Like we said, it's a north-south country, so just the climate is different everywhere.
Yeah, it's got to have a very large variation in climate when you're a north-south country like that.
North is warm, and south and Ushuaia is very cold. It's not that far from Antarctica, so it's Ushuaia is really beautiful. But there's places all over that are just insane. I mean, they do have some Iguazu Falls in the rainforest. Yeah. They have mountains like in Cordoba and the Andes. They have the Campa, which is like the big the Pampas, which is the cornfields there. And
they have corn.
They have a desert, which has we have like a desert area in the south and the Chubut area and all that stuff. That has really unique terrain. That some of it looks like Utah and those places, So it's just it's such a varied country.
I've heard about Aloche is really nice too. I've heard about that.
Yeah, my friend just went there, but he went to Iguazu and Bariloche. But where Doug Casey lived, San Martin de los Andes Joram, our friend Joram, was telling me about how gorgeous that place is. So
It sounds like it's all pretty gorgeous. Yeah, it's a
Yeah, I love even the cornfields. They remind me of home. It remind me of Illinois where I'm from. So it's
it'll
spectacular.
yeah. There's a lot of cornfields in Illinois. Yeah, you know what I'm hoping. You know what I'm hoping too is maybe by the next time I go back there, I know he's opened some things up. I'm hoping maybe they got some competition in airlines because I've said maybe Volaris or Avianca might move in and try to get a presence there. You know, to compete with Aerolíneas Argentinas.
Right. Yep. That's part of the thing is he wants to. I think he's doing with the open skies policy.
Yeah,
Being,
but it takes a while to set up shop in a new country. I
right.
mean, you can't just do it overnight.
Right. But
And they,
supposedly the open skies policy has caused
yeah,
just a huge surge in tourism in Argentina. It's so much easier to get to Argentina now and cheaper.
yeah, it was. It was 10 hours from DFW, so and that's not always available either. But most of the flights, well, depending on which airline you go.
Yeah, it's a long flight.
Yeah, it's a long flight. You got a long plane. Yeah, that's one thing about Colombia and some of the countries up north. They can actually take the smaller jets down, and when they take the smaller jets, you have more flights available. But
yeah,
usually on a route like that, they just do it in one day. 10 hours down, 10 hours back, and just same schedule. Probably just using the same plane. Maybe I don't know if they use the same crews or not, but just
right.
keep them going back and forth. Just to
Yeah, yes, yeah. It's fascinating, Chris. That's why I watch it. I've learned a lot of Spanish just listening to them. So
and none of the people down there I've talked to, and I've said to a lot of them, said, actually, I have more confidence in your country than I do in America, and they're all kind of like, I get it.
Yeah, I mean, there's different areas.
Yeah,
there's different areas I think that are more salvageable.
Yeah, I don't know. It's
some of the big cities, that sort of thing, are unfortunately.
There's definitely different attitudes in the big cities than there are in the.
I grew up in rural Illinois, so we're talking. It's a very different attitude. That's how I grew up. So,
well,
much more reasonable people there.
Yeah, from what I've heard, the problem for rural Illinois is, well, yeah, we're ruled by Chicago. It's because Chicago still outvotes us, even though there's a lot of people, because it's very much a farming state. I mean, it
would be like Indiana politically. It'd be like
there are no hills in Illinois. I mean, it's just all flat land.
Yeah. So it's I like it's a nice culture down there. It's probably pretty similar to what I experienced when I went to the small towns in Argentina, Galvez and in Santa Fe. It's somewhat. I love the Argentinian culture. I'm a huge fan, but it's there's not there is similar in that they actually do things. They're farming, and they actually understand where the food is coming, and they get economics more, and it's not. Yeah, and those are the people that so overwhelmingly supported Milei and why he won.
Yeah. Also I found in November, Monerotopia is going down there. I went to Monerotopia last year when I was in Mexico City. They're going to go down there because that's basically it's also an event, but they also get a bunch of vendors and they all set up, and you can buy and sell stuff with Monero. So it's kind of an interesting event. And I know there's also one guy in Milei's cabinet who climbed Aconcagua, which I found impressive. Yeah, that's
Petri. Who knows?
Yeah, I'll have to look it up. Yeah, but
he's one of the younger guys. So
cabinet, we had a Gary Johnson climbed all 7 summits. That was interesting. He, our former presidential candidate. I don't think Milei could possibly happen here. I don't know about you, but with the state of the liberty movement and everything, I don't know if a good. Obviously, I obviously know we have ballot laws and stuff like that here that make it nearly impossible, but I still don't think it could happen here if we had open elections the way we should have open elections here.
Yeah, it's. I think you could potentially get a guy like Vivek somebody that's somewhat similar.
Vivek's not a
But I'm not a
libertarian.
huge fan. I'm just I don't have a huge amount of hope for the federal government.
Yeah, I've said about 2/3.
Obviously, I don't.
2/3 of the time I really like Vivek, but then the other 1/3 of the time I think he's nuts. But that's a guy.
Yeah,
That's
I'm
a
not
guy.
sure he believes what he says either.
Yeah, but Vivek is a guy I'd certainly would love to sit down and have a coffee with him or something
Well,
like that.
people have. So some of the Free he tried to get our votes for Free Stater votes. He came to a lot of our events, and a lot of the people came out thinking that he was not. I had people that came out thinking he was not like very genuine with what he believed. That he was more saying it to get to because he's very smart and he thought that it was an avenue to get votes and increase his standing. That's what a lot of because they would ask him why, how are you going to do that, and he would like have no answers. It would just kind of platitudes, that type of thing. So some of the people weren't very impressed with him. But I think his rhetoric was pretty good in a lot of ways.
Yeah, but what's he
in some
going to
ways?
do?
But so I think maybe something like that is possible.
One thing
they do not want, they wouldn't, but who knows? It's hard to say, and it's already going to be so bad as far as the unfunded liabilities and all that stuff that's not being fixed. It's and that's what worries me about Trump if he gets elected, is he's not going to fix the problems, and he's not going to fix any of the problems really. And maybe economic growth does help. So if he increase economic growth, that does help. But
I don't think any of us imagined, in the election of 2016 too, that he would start scaremongering over the pandemic either. I mean, that was something none of us expected. I think one thing I realized too, though, is I think in a lot of cases, the mental barriers we have as libertarians that keep us from buying into some of these psyops are also the same mental barriers that keep us from being able to persuade people. And for whatever reason, Milei has figured out a way to keep the barrier up that keeps him from buying into the bullshit, but he's actually managed to get around the barrier to persuade people.
Yeah. No, Milei learned from Trump. So Milei focuses heavily on social media, does use a lot of symbology and slogans. He really he makes a lot of stunts to get publicity. He's a brilliant at getting publicity. So he learned kind of, and I think he admitted this to Trump. That Trump kind of taught him how to be. And by the way, he did that. Well, actually, when Trump got elected was right around when Milei started to become known in Argentina. So
I also think he's young.
I think he really utilized the fun aspect. And by the way, LLA, La Libertad Avanza, that's their thing. That's their whole
coalition.
They're all the coalition, but that's what they do. Is they all like real heavily utilize social media and in a very effective way. And if you look at the opponents like Kishilov and the Peronist and Christina Kirchner and stuff, they really don't utilize social media. Their social media accounts are very boring and typical politician. I'm going to get a photo op here and there, that sort of thing. Whereas the LLA people are all really interesting on social media to follow and etc. So that's where he learned. And if you want to do it, you're going to have to do something like that. And you're going to have to get a person like Milei, where you're somebody that can do this and gets himself out and comes up with the famous slogans like La Libertad Carajo, Viva La Libertad Carajo, and all the stuff that Milei used to do. So, and not be afraid to be boisterous. And So, I mean, I think the closest one probably I know is probably Dave Smith
Yeah.
to doing something that Milei could do, but um, he also has some probably wouldn't have agreed with Milei's rhetoric this whole
Yeah,
time.
but
So,
the tactics, and the nonverbal is, it's the nonverbal that gets people. It's
right.
the clothes, it's the unfortunately and
I mean,
libertarians.
the chainsaw, the
We can't use
symbology.
these methods, but these methods work. And I also think I don't think somebody much older than Milei could have done this. But he's still quite about young enough that he could
Yeah,
get
early 50s.
the kids out and the young voters out, and they really loved him.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're really in 2008. Ron Paul was too old for that reason alone. It was
Right.
really very yeah.
He's like he's like younger, a little bit more. He's like as I think it was Clint Russell said, he's like if Trump and Ron Paul had a child, which I think is quite accurate. But he's way more. He is actually more humble, actually, like Ron Paul. Believe it or not, in a lot of ways, he's not boisterous personally about himself personally. So, like Trump is, he's not a blowhard. So he's actually quite humble, and that's what like Jorge Truco, our friend, that's what he would tell you.
Yeah.
What he says about Milei, who knows him personally. So.
I think Milei likes people too, and being a libertarian, sometimes it's hard to like people, but
right, and he loves his country.
Yeah, he loves his country.
Peronistas, like Massa, did not care about Argentina. He cared about the Peronists don't care about the country. They care about enriching themselves.
Yeah,
and you can tell Milei loves his country, and I think Caputo and the people in his cabinet love his country.
In a way, and some of these people are just misguided. I think Miriam Bregman probably loves her country, but she's just misguided.
She won't even stand up and do the national anthem.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Well, I bet Juan Schiaretti does.
Oh yeah, that guy does.
Yeah. I'm curious to know where he is, because I remember thinking during the debates, I think this is a guy Milei can work with. I felt better about him than I did about Bullrich.
And his province voted 74% for Milei.
Yeah, and I think
Cordova voted 74% for Milei.
It's going to be interesting to see if Milei has 8 years, if some of these people will at least admit, and say, well, I ran against him, but he was right, and he's helped our country.
Tons of people. The pro people, pretty much most of them like Milei now. All the Bullrich people, a lot of them are admitted that they probably Milei was actually a better choice than Bullrich, because Milei is actually doing what Bullrich wouldn't have done.
Yeah.
And I've seen that discussion quite a bit, and they like that Bullrich is doing what they want her to do anyways, which is like the security stuff.
Well, maybe Bullrich is just kind of following whoever the alpha male is that she's around, and now she's
her and Milei actually. We saw them fight on the campaign trail.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Supposedly they were friendly. They just, the competition of the campaign made them fight. But once that was over, they became like friends again.
Well, I thought Bregman was kind of crushing on him too. I know other people.
Everybody thought that, but I mean, she's obviously is like one of his big opponents in in 3 days.
Yeah. Well, one thing I found out that Bregman was actually doing a lot of lawsuits against people who had been like legal action for people who had been disappeared. So I kind of had a more positive when I read about that. But
yeah, I don't think they're all that bad. I don't think she's all 100% bad or anything. Sometimes socialists have some things you can kind of agree with on.
Oh yeah. I sometimes wonder what Milei would think of Trump if he knew English, because I think if he hung out with American libertarians for an hour, like, no, he's horrible. But I don't object to using the methods if the methods work. I don't object to using Saul Alinsky's methods if they work. But it's going to be very interesting to see.
I know he definitely has gone the Rothbard type of route. So as far as like he kind of has vindicated him a little bit as far as his political strategy, and So
Yeah.
I think I think he's really interesting, and well, he could be very good if he can turn this economy around, in which he looks like they will, as long as the people can withstand the pain.
Yeah.
If they withstand the pain and it's starting to turn around, and by 2025 the economy is on the upswing, and I think it'll be incredible. I think for especially in Latin
Yeah.
America, liberty in Latin America.
Yeah, I think it'd be great too. Also, I think, I also like the fact that he actually seems to have a very diverse education, which I think is a good thing.
Yeah, no,
People,
he knows so much about this is
yeah,
what my mother-in-law loves about him. He knows so much about um, all these different topics. For example, theater, music. Yeah, he's kind of like Hayekian in that
yeah.
Rothbardian in that he's so knowledgeable about a lot of
Well,
different subjects.
but I
So
know I know a lot of libertarians, though they seem to have one libertarian guru that they follow, and they don't go after any other.
right now,
Yeah,
he even goes Gary, for example. Well, he loves Gary Becker, of course, but he named his dogs
the
after
dogs. Yeah,
Lucas. The supply side economist is it George Lucas?
George Lucas. Yeah, I
Yeah,
think so.
right. The supply side economist that won the Nobel Prize. He named his, and that's not a typical libertarian economist that you
Yeah,
associate with. I think he was pretty good He was pretty good, but on he was a pretty good economist. I know some of his work. So, but that's not somebody that the libertarians normally associate with libertarianism.
well,
So
one thing.
he goes. I've seen him quote for everything from Hoppe to Sewell to Menger to Hazlitt to
Yes.
Mises to Hayek to other. So I've seen him quote some other American economists too that are a little bit lesser known. So
Yeah, that's
and
Robert.
of course, the Spanish economist as well, because
That,
they take pride in those people like
yeah,
Lynch.
that,
By the way, Lynch's son, is in the deputies, but
yeah.
he's a
That's
Malay.
Robert Murphy's, by the way, not
Robert
George.
Murphy, he likes Robert Murphy as
Yeah, he
well.
likes Bob Murphy. Yeah,
Yeah, and I let Bob Murphy know about it.
yeah. I've been wanting to get Bob Murphy on here. And he's mentioned Israel Kirzner twice. Who got
Israel
his
Kirzner,
PhD? Kirzner got his PhD under Mises. He was at NYU for a long time. I met him back in 1994 at FE.
Wow.
He is still alive. Next
Yeah,
time
he's
is
like
back
in his
in
90s.
What? Yeah, he's really old. But
Yeah, they were actually considering him for a Nobel Prize, which is crazy.
Kirzner,
Yeah.
he's done a lot of work.
His work in entrepreneurship.
Yeah, this is one thing sometimes forgotten. As bad as academia is, economics professors are actually better than most of them because they've actually looked into Marxism and they know how horrible it is.
Yeah.
It's all these so-called humanities professors that are the Marxists.
Right. There's a few Marxist economics people.
Yeah.
And a lot of them are Keynesians, which is a little, I guess, maybe it's, a lot of Keynesians believe in some market stuff. Milei just loves, his pastime is to just trash Keynes. He just loves doing that so much.
Yeah, and at the same time, Milei can go out and talk to the plumbers, and I think he's getting plumbers and truck drivers to read.
Oh yeah,
economics books. It's
right. Yeah, he's always quote. Yeah, if you follow him on Twitter, like half of what he does is promoting economics and free market literature and knowledge. So it's
I hope this works out. Yeah,
I think he's exceeded my expectations. Really, really nice. If you'd have told me that Congress wasn't going to work with him at all, I'd be like, man. But what he's been able to do with the governors, cutting the public works, cutting the state, it's been remarkable. And he did stuff that I don't think anybody expected him to do. which his opponents are really like. That's why he put his opponents in a tailspin.
Well, I think if he's in the presidency for 8 years, maybe he picks a good successor, and maybe after that, he can
Yeah, I'm not sure
Visha
Ruel would be a good one, but
yeah, but but maybe Mondino, but he still might have. Well, she's
Mondino would be good.
Modino's getting old though, but she's still. But he could have. Go set up. The Javier Milei School of Economics and Politics or something like that. And just
Visha Ruel said that in her interview, and this is something that I think she said she disagreed with Milei on. She because there's all this talk about they're fighting and stuff, and which is not true, but they do have different beliefs. And Visha Ruel believes that they should have mandatory military service.
Yeah, that actually was one of the accusations made in that article. But
it's not Milei. In that speech is like she was like talking about how she disagreed with Milei.
Yeah. Well, Switzerland does, and it's one of the freest countries on earth. So it's. Well, one thing you have a cult. You would have a culture though.
Switzerland doesn't
where everybody's part of the army and everybody has a gun. So that would eventually your crime problem would go away like that. because now somebody breaks into your house. Oh, they got shot. Too bad.
Yeah, but
this
you can change the laws, the penal code.
This is one thing about America that is that this is a problem that other countries have that America does not have. A burglary when the people are home is extremely rare in America.
Right. Yeah.
Burglaries almost always happen when the people aren't home. But apparently in other countries, they're quite common.
Trust me, I know in person. I know some horrendous stories that just happened recently about this. Like I would never tell the public. It make them puke, but yeah. So, because of the guns and the lack of self-defense, yes, burglars are very brazen in Argentina, and they're the ones that, of course, they're criminals. They're the ones that are willing to use violence and have guns. And
yes,
and the crime is bad there right now.
Yeah, I saw a video of a cell phone theft and stuff like that. And I guess you can't, depending on whether or not you can defend yourself. I think that could be the real divide in America, whether or not you can defend yourself. It's, hopefully it'll work out for New Hampshire. It's maybe, I was told people, maybe you can get somebody from Milei's cabinet up at PorkFest. I don't know.
I would love to do that. My wife has tried to get Milei to PorkFest in the years past.
It'd be nearly impossible to get Milei to PorkFest.
No, not now. I tell people maybe a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
The pandemic. We've been following him for years. The pandemic reduced travel too, so it's one reason so.
PorkFest kept going, and good for you guys. It kept it going, and
yep, that was great. Yeah,
the Hampshire libertarians just thumb their nose at it as much as anybody.
And Carla's kind of the hero there, and she said, "I don't care. We're going to do this anyways."
This is completely not related to Milei, but do you have any opinions on the board firing Mr. Kaufman?
We're saying this publicly.
You don't want to say it publicly. That's fine.
I'll just say I love Jeremy, and I do also I love Jeremy, and his entrepreneurship and dynamicism is that type of thing we do need on the board. He's he's so talented. It's insane, and I think we are missing that a little bit on the board. Some of the people on the board I do like, though. I do like Jason. I love Carla. She's a great friend of mine.
Yeah.
And so I do like the people on the board. I think a dynamic guy like Jeremy. They really need somebody like that. Now, Jeremy is so fantastic. He can do his own thing, and I hope he does, because I mean, that guy is, that guy. I know him personally. He's a nice guy, and he's and so I want him to do his thing, and I'm not, but he's had a tough year, so.
Oh yeah, the federal lawsuit and all that stuff. Yeah,
Right.
and,
So
we should all
he's
be
a great
thankful.
guy, though. He's a great guy. Most people, he had an incident at Pork Fest and stuff, and
Yeah,
kind of a jerk, but I think that was a kind of a rare thing. Every time I've talked to him, and I've really enjoyed him, and I think he's a nice guy, and he's extremely like one of the most talented people I've ever met.
We all need to thank him for creating Odyssey, which is the best free speech platform.
Yeah, but the government has almost basically destroyed it. But yes,
good. Also, good support on Odyssey. I also like that they have a Discord. So if you want to talk to other people to use Odyssey, I mean, I think he's really doing something great with Odyssey. And also, he also really loves his kids and loves his family. I mean,
that's another thing. He really loves his kids.
Yeah, I really have these. Yeah, it's so great when you see parents who just they enjoy being a dad. I mean,
right? Yeah, that's one of the cool.
They're either always happy or they're always complaining. It's one or the other. It's
we have a lot of families, and that's both the fun thing to see.
The Liberty movement still hasn't figured out how we can bring out I think we need to bring out the best in all of our people and just kind of.
Yeah, I think part of that is just the online brings.
Yeah.
People that I'm not going to name names, people I get along a lot, and some of it, these people are so vicious towards Milei that it's just. I try not to be. I'm not like I can find criticisms of Milei. I really can, and there's some things like I think, but some of what they say is like it's so obvious that they don't care at all about Argentina. It's just they're trying to base him on maybe in comparison to themselves or in comparison to Ron Paul or their purity test and like this. And like I said, what about the materiality and so it just so that has frustrated me. Even people that I have liked, I get a little angry, and it's mostly just I'm not trying just to defend Milei because I love Milei. I'm just like I see arguments that I think are not right, and just people attacking him, and it does bother me.
Yeah.
And, if you're, some stuff is, I guess some stuff is you can dislike what he does, but you have to put it in proportion too. And you need to look at a context of Argentina, what he's doing for Argentina. And no, it's not what he's done is not easy. Some people say, "Oh, it's so obvious. He had to cut spending now."
Yeah,
you don't understand. You're cutting like you're firing a lot of people is not easy.
Well, and as a libertarian, I just ask people, what else is there to be optimistic about? Nothing. The misrepresentations are what get me. To their credit, Reason at least said in that article that it was 837 million Argentine pesos. All of these other outlets tried to act like it was dollars, dollar sign before the amount. I said so. I would correct people, say, well, actually,
that was another thing too.
This is not nearly as much money as you think it is.
He didn't buy it though. That was another thing. It was from the previous government. It was previous government buying it. Yeah, and another thing that all these like, he's like, I mean, Milei is like super socially conservative in a lot of ways. So,
that's
one of the reasons why she was criticizing him. It was like, he got rid of the inclusive language in the military.
And he's going to require female in the military to wear skirts. Oh my goodness. But yes, just the same thing with the LP National Convention. Was the current administration did not choose Washington, D.C. as a site, but they're going to spend all this money on a much more expensive location. And who knows? It's, Well, anyway, we're at about 3 hours here, so this has been another great talk. I don't know if there's anything else you want to say at this point.
No, not much. Just I'm just gonna keep watching, and I'm really excited
Yeah.
about it. It's something to be excited about, and
Yeah.
there's always some interesting news every single day from this administration.
Yeah,
There's
maybe
always
you should
something.
put out your own reports every day. I mean, seriously, it's
Yeah, maybe should.
yeah, it's because people are watching this. I mean, I think it's really gotten a lot of people fascinated. I think it could actually be a case where a democracy fixes itself, which doesn't seem possible, but maybe it is.
Yeah, there's a couple examples.
Yeah, well. Thank you, Skot Sheller. Where can we find you on the net? You're just your Twitter account. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, right now. I mean, I might start writing more about Malay. We'll see if I get some more time. But
Yeah, I might get back to Porkfest sometimes too. I should go back to the Liberty Forum. It's
yeah,
I really like. I really prefer a more intellectual event like the Liberty Forum. I'm not a camper, but you know,
yeah,
it's a little easier to get to the Liberty Forum. But yeah, they're good events all around.
yeah. So
Yeah, yeah. We'll certainly rooting for the Free State Project, and maybe there'll be maybe Argentina will become a Free State Project, or
yeah.
that'd be interesting. Which province which Argentine province might you start a free province project in? Decide, yeah.
Well, there's some of those provinces. I did discuss this. There's was it Santa Cruz that voted like 60% for Malay, but it has under 1 million people. So
Okay, that might be a good one. Yeah.
Terra Fuego is
Well, but those are so far out of nowhere.
I know.
There.
I'm on the north. Maybe La Rioja. They voted. They have a really bad governor right now, but they voted. Malay got the majority, and doesn't have a lot of people that live there. So there's a few provinces. I think Salta voted for Malay. Only 3 provinces did. So some of these provinces like Salta and La Rioja that voted got Malay pretty decent majorities. Probably might be good options in Argentina.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what happens. I'm excited about it too. I hope other things and maybe our own country will get better, but I'm not seeing much signs of it.
Hopefully.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you, Skot Sheller. Please buy my novel, Escape from the Village. Check out my Substack. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I'm Chris Baker, and we're out.